UV1. Yeah, so let's take a look at what we got here. Um, so, Eric, why don't you tell us a little bit about James Van Riemsdyk and the reported contract that he will be very likely to be signing once this market opens?
Yeah, it sounds like James Van Riemsdyk is going to sign a 5-year deal with a 7 million AAV with the Philadelphia Flyers, the team that drafted him, going back to Philly. Um, it seems like a reasonable price. That's about what Kane got, right? Kane's getting paid 7 million with the Sharks, right?
Yeah.
So it kind of seems reasonable. It seems like Kane and JVR are roughly the same caliber player. So that's kind of how I feel about it.
You
I
know
don't
what
know
was
about you.
yeah, but you know what was interesting though is based off the news that I heard, at least from last night, before it was reported that he was going to go to Philly, is that the Arizona Coyotes made a pretty good offer to him. I think about the same average annual value, but they were offering 2 more years. They were trying to offer 7 years at
7 years.
and
Ew.
but JVR kind of said no. Um,
That's a lot of time
so
to be committed to the Coyotes, though. That's the thing. They're on the upswing, but you don't know which direction this team's going to go, still.
Oh, absolutely. And by the way, we do have a quick question from Golden Riot. What are your favorite teams? So my favorite team is the San Jose Sharks. I'm actually born and raised in San Jose. I'm just now living in Tucson, Arizona. So yeah. So my favorite team is the San Jose Sharks, and you can go ahead and tell them, Eric.
Yeah, my favorite team are the Detroit Red Wings because my dad was born and raised out in Detroit, and he kind of brought me up rooting for that. But I was born and raised in Phoenix, so I'm a Coyotes fan too. But the Red Wings are my first favorite team, the Coyotes are my second. But I follow both of them.
Okay, so yeah, getting back to the what we're looking at here. There's some other really interesting ones that I want to touch on in the last 5 minutes before the market opens. I have a lot of them listed on here. I've got like, let's
It's
see,
all
what's it?
rumors at
Let's
this
see.
point. These are all just what they're reported to be, so we'll
Oh
see all
yeah,
the official details.
it's happened before. I think it happened with, I believe it was like Parise or something like that, where he was gonna sign a contract with a team. At least he had a verbal agreement, and then at the very last minute, boom, he signed to somebody else.
Red
Um,
Wings. He had a verbal agreement with the Red Wings,
there
and
we
then he
go.
signed with Minnesota instead. His wife told him to. Otherwise, he would have been a Red Wing.
There we go. But yeah, so all these can change, but we do have some that are very very likely. For example, we do have one where Paul Stastny, who previously this last season was playing with the Winnipeg Jets, is reported to have made an agreement to head over to the Vegas Golden Knights for 4 years at around 6 million a year, roughly
That's
so.
pretty good. Stats he's a good player. 6 million AAV isn't bad at all for a guy like him.
Oh, not at all. Yeah, that's pretty good. How he's in his 30s now, right?
He's on the wrong side of 30, yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. He's been in the league for a while. Um, I'll confirm what his age is exactly right now.
but
Stats.
but we do have a lot of guys hitting the market, a lot of big name guys, and
Yeah, he's 33.
there you go.
32. He's going to be 33 in December.
So that means by the time this contract is up, he will be around 36. So
Yeah, that's not too bad.
that's not
I mean,
terrible.
he's not going to be because once you're past 35, that's when you're really entering, the twilight of an NHLer's career. It really could end at any moment after 35. Like a guy could retire. I know a lot of guys go till 40, but taking him right up until he's 35 isn't bad for Vegas. Good on them.
Not bad at all. Now, we're probably gonna talk about the rest of these guys during our during intermissions between official signings, and because we can actually see, those of you who are watching on the live stream on YouTube can actually see that there is a Sportsnet / NHL Network stream right above my shoulder, so you can go ahead and So I'm gonna take a quick peek over there and see what the updates are from there. But before we get whole started here, there's everything going on about John Tavares. Of course, we have to talk about John Tavares because he's about to hit the market and he's gonna make a
Oh, in
decision.
2 minutes here.
Probably in 2 minutes. I mean, it could take longer. Who knows? But we
He
do.
has the control of the market. John Tavares isn't a guy that needs a contract on the first day of free agency. He could wait till August to sign, and teams are still going to be lining up to get him. You
Absolutely.
know?
But what's said though is so last night at around 9 p.m. our time, 12 p.m. Eastern time, uh, he had the option to sign an 8-year deal worth $88 million with the New York Islanders, and it's we pretty much know now that he did not take that offer. So now he cannot sign an eighth year with the Islanders if he decided to go with back to them. It's only 7 years, and now
Well, I think that theoretically eliminates them because if he was going to stay with the Islanders, he would have gone for the most term and the most money.
that eighth year was pretty much what kept, what a lot of us believe, what kept the Islanders in the running. And a lot of people believe it's now between the Sharks and the Maple Leafs, and it's
But
close.
what do the Maple Leafs actually look like? We were talking about that on the podcast, the pre-free agency podcast that we did a couple of days ago here. Do you think it's going to be that 1 year, max deal,
So
15.7?
it's been kind of rumored around. I don't think it's ever confirmed, but it's said that he does not want to take the so-called 1+8 deal. He doesn't want to do that. So it looks like to be a 7-year deal, no matter what, no matter who he signs with. Now, I
How's
don't
Toronto going to give that to him?
that I'm not sure because how much money they're willing to offer and at what term, because they got to worry about Marner and Matthews also. So
Yeah. Well, Marner and Matthews are both RFAs next year, and given that Jack Eichel is getting paid $10 million a season by Buffalo, you know that Matthews is going to be making at least that much, maybe more. Depends on how you feel of Austin Matthews versus Jack Eichel. But he's going to be making at least as much as Eichel, so it's not like Toronto is going to have cap space for days at the end of next offseason.
yeah, I mean, like of course, right now it looks like it is because they got a lot of really young guys. But once those young guys start
Or
wanting
off
more,
the entry level deals.
and they start wanting more money, then it's gonna look a little scary.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the rumored contract offer from the Sharks is supposedly 7 years at $91 million. So about $13 million a year.
That would make him the highest paid player in the league.
Absolutely, yeah, because McDavid is getting paid 12.5. So
Right.
that would make him the highest paid player in the league.
But I said that in last a couple days ago. I was like, I could see Tavares becoming the highest paid player in the league at the end of this, just because people are going to want him so bad.
I mean, the talent that he's had, I believe he's has one of the highest goals scored for a center since 2009. Like,
He's just a very good player. I mean, just watch him play. He's a great playmaker. He's got great vision. He's not particularly fast. There's nothing that's really. He doesn't have the best hands in the league, but he's just a really smart player. That's what I like the most about Tavares.
oh, absolutely, and that's what makes a lot of people in the market really excited to see where he goes. And I know a lot of Islanders fans are really upset he didn't take that deal. And I'm like, part of me really feels bad for them based off the way that he went about this. Like, he didn't even seem like he didn't even talk to the Islanders about turning down that deal. It seemed like, and I mean that kind of sucks.
Well, what happened is I don't know if you saw all this online, but there were like videos of him at his agent's office in LA over the last week, just taking meetings with like all those teams. And the Islanders were obviously one of the teams invited to the meetings, but it seemed like he was giving no preferential treatment to his current club. We can say that for sure, and the the Islanders didn't give him a reason to stay. Let's be honest. They only made the playoffs 3 times in his 9 years with them, right? They only won 1 playoff series. So it was 2 first round exits out of those 3 playoff appearances. And when you just look at the team, it doesn't look like they're going to be a contender anytime soon. I see people online saying like, oh, the Islanders are going to be good next year because of Matt Barzal, because of the guys they drafted, Wallstrom, blah, 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 blah. But that's not going to be enough to solve their woes on the blue line and, the weaknesses that they have in net. You just can't win in today's league being weak in both of those areas. And I think Tavares and his agent saw that.
And I think beyond that too, looking at the 2 teams in contention, Toronto and San Jose, San Jose has got a pretty good
they got a good blue line.
Pretty good blue line. Their forward, they got a lot of depth there, and and Toronto, their youth. Matthews.
But Toronto doesn't have a blue line either.
They don't. That's the thing that concerns some people a little bit, and I think what concerns people for people for San Jose is, their core is old. Joe Thornton is gonna be 39. Actually, he's gonna be 39 tomorrow. And Brett Burns is like 33, I believe. Pavelski's 33. Vlasic is 31. And yeah, those guys are they're kind of like the heart and soul of the Sharks. But if you look at it in a different way, at least from my perspective as a Sharks fan myself, is okay, that's not too much of a concern down the road because we got guys like Evander Kane we got for the next 7 years, and he's 27. Logan Couture is 29, so he's probably
he's gonna be around for a while.
Yeah, he's gonna sign that extension for another 8 years, about $8 million a year, so a $64 million contract over 8 years. He's going to be around for a while, and probably
Burns is signed until he's 40, right?
Yeah.
They gave him that 8-year extension when he was 32.
And once Pavelski decides to retire, because who knows how much time he has left, they're probably going to hand the captaincy over to Couture. But other than that, you got Jonas Donskoi in his mid-20s, Timo Meier in his mid-20s. You have a lot of guys in their mid-20s. They're not necessarily core yet, but they have that potential to be, and they're going to get there. And I think that's what makes the Sharks a really good look, at least at this point. I think that's what some people are failing to realize in this chase for John Tavares.
For John Tavares, yeah. I agree with a lot of the concerns about San Jose's veteran core because it kind of reminds me of how the Red Wings were like in 2011, 12, 13, 14. The heart and soul of the team were guys on the wrong side of 30. Your Nick Lidstrom's, late career Pavel Datsyuk and Henrik Zetterberg too. And yeah, they were really good at those ages, but once they retired, the Red Wings did have some growing pains, and it all depends how well San Jose can handle that transition, because the Red Wings went through that also in the early 2000s when guys like Fedorov and Yzerman and Shanahan were leaving, and then they successfully passed the torch over to guys like Datsyuk and Zetterberg, and the Red Wings did just fine. So San Jose really could go either way, and I agree with you when you say some people aren't giving the talent in the system that they have the credit it deserves. But yeah, I think it is a valid concern to a certain point. And then the other thing about the Islanders too, here's another point that I want to make, is that they're, the B squad in New York, so to speak, right? Like the Rangers are much more popular. The Rangers have a lot more fans, right? So even if you are playing for the Islanders in New York, which theoretically sounds like a big market, you're really in a small market. And I don't know, maybe he wants to stop living in the Rangers shadow a little bit, because everyone I've met from New York that says that they're a hockey fan, I've only met Rangers fans out here. And there's a lot of people that move from New York out to Arizona. I've never once met an Islanders fan that's moved out here.
Now, I used to work for a website in which actually there were more Islanders fans than,
Really?
than Rangers fans, and you know, I messaged them last night and was like, hey guys, I just know I'm here for you guys because I could imagine some of the pain that you guys are feeling.
Losing a franchise player.
Exactly. I mean, think of, very rarely do you ever see a number one overall draft pick enter the free agency market. It doesn't happen.
And I don't know why it isn't more common. I don't understand because, I don't understand why these elite talents don't want to just go somewhere else and actually win. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think there's any shame in Tavares wanting to leave his club so that he can actually be on a cup contending team. He's an athlete, he's a competitor, he wants to win.
I think one of the main reasons is a lot of these hockey players are loyal to a fault.
Oh, I know they are. But I don't see why they're less loyal, if that makes sense. I'm just, you know what I mean?
Right.
They should. I think there's absolutely no shame in what Tavares is doing. Like I got it when Stamkos stayed with the Lightning. We were talking about that a few days ago, because the Lightning were actually a cup contending team when he did decide to stay. They were probably the best team on the list of potential teams he was going to sign with. Because if I'm remembering correctly, it was like Toronto, Detroit, Montreal. Who else was in the mix for Stamkos back then? I don't remember. But of the teams, I remember that Tampa Bay was clearly the best team on that list, and he stayed with the best team. So I understood it. But the Islanders, you can't even make an argument that the Islanders were the best team on Tavares' 6-team list, right?
I mean,
you could argue they're the worst.
I think. Well, yeah. I mean, if you look at the numbers, I believe that all the other 5 teams had more wins than the Islanders. And that already tells you something in the last.
I think that the Islanders also, if I'm remembering this correctly, they were the only team in the league to average 3+ goals a game in the league last year and not make the playoffs. That's how bad their defense and their goaltending was.
I think that's most of the concern is their goaltending. I mean,
their forward group wasn't bad. I mean, they had Eberle, Barzal had a great season too. And then obviously Tavares is there, but
I mean, we definitely got to see what they can do in the future. Now that they don't have Tavares, it's
full rebuild now.
Yeah. And you gotta wonder how exactly Lou Lamoriello is going to approach that going into free agency. I'm looking through the Twitter feeds on TweetDeck, and they're getting in the mix on some free agents. There's of course, and that's the only thing, just in the mix. There's no,
Okay, but here's the thing: you can't just replace a player like Tavares. You remember when Datsuk retired and the Red Wings tried signing Franz Nielsen kind of as like a stopgap replacement, and the Red Wings missed the playoffs for the first time in 25 years the next season? Mm-hmm. It's going to be the same thing. There's no way that they're going to be able to make up for his absence.
Oh, yeah. I'm not saying that they're going to, but
yeah.
They're going to try to at least get some kind of,
right,
what do you call, depth pieces or something just to kind of keep them from free falling.
I almost wish that Stastny was still available for their sake.
Oh,
because I know Stastny's no Tavares, but at least he's like a guy capable of playing as a first-line center.
You kind of knew Stastny based off the kind of numbers that he had. Like in the last couple of seasons, he wasn't going to be on the market for too long.
No. Well, he's a good veteran guy too. I think that's a big reason why Winnipeg went out and got him. I still think that Winnipeg dealt Steve Mason away. I don't know if you saw that a couple of days ago.
Yeah, over to Montreal.
Yeah. Maybe they're getting ready to get rid of Carey Price. Montreal, I don't know what's going on with Montreal.
So I think some of the reason behind Winnipeg dealing him away is they were trying to get more cap room to re-sign Paul Stastny, but Stastny is kind of was like, all right, I'm gonna kind of look somewhere else. It's kind of like a thanks but no thanks kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
And you got to, I mean,
Um,
it kind of sucks on the Jets part, but I mean,
I mean, but the Jets are still a good team without Statsny. They still were fighting for the lead in the Central before they got him at the deadline. So, Jonathan Bernier signed with the Detroit Red Wings. So did Vanek, and Green got a contract extension, 2 years, 5.375. Not bad. That's a little bit of a pay cut from what he got before. He was on a 3 year deal, 6 million annual average value. So he's I like the signing personally. The Red Wings need a veteran guy on the blue line like that. I think he was the Red Wings' best defenseman last year, which isn't saying much, but he was. Um, and yeah, I like the signing. What do you think about Mike Green staying put in Detroit?
I mean, I think it's definitely good for Detroit in the case where like you're gonna get some familiar guys and you kind of build something around that. It kind of helps with what they're trying to do in that rebuild and stuff like that. So
Yeah, yeah, no, I think it's good. And I like the term too, because the Red Wings were for a while, just handing out 5 year contracts to guys that were like 32, 33, and people were just like, why? You're
mhm.
paying this guy like 5.5 million a season until he's 38, and it just didn't make sense. So I really like the Green deal in that respect because it's only 2 years.
Absolutely. Here's a question for you. What do you like about the case with the free agents? Wow, leaving Vegas. We know that David Perron signed a deal with St. Louis at 4 years at around $4 million a year, um, and it's very likely that Neil's also gone. Um, your thoughts?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, we were talking about it a couple of days ago, and if you even looked at their defensive core, they have the cheapest blue line in the league. I mean, their top paid blue liner is only making like 2.8 million a year, right? And a lot of guys, the thing about the expansion draft, bringing all those guys to Vegas is a lot of them were in the last years of their contracts, right? And then Vegas went on to have this incredible season. So you had these guys that were rejected by their teams that weren't on super expensive deals. A bunch of them went out and had career years, made their team go all the way to the Stanley Cup final. So a lot of those guys are going to need raises. So with the salary cap being what it is in the NHL, you had to let some of those guys go to keep the pieces that you wanted. And for whatever reason, George McPhee, Gerard Gallant, and all those people felt that Neil and Perron were the ones that should go out of their entire group. Shea Theodore is going to be he already is an RFA, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's going to get a big raise. He was incredible for them this year. He's by far the best prospects, I guess you could say, that they have because he's only 22. Um, so yeah, the Golden Knights just need cap space. A lot of their guys had really good years, and they need the money, and they just don't have the money to keep someone like Perron or Neal on the payroll.
Okay,
What
so
do you think, Rob?
um, yeah, I mean it's yeah, I mean they got their guys that I mean Vegas is gonna have their guys that are gonna be able to produce and at least a lot of those younger guys. I mean you got guys like Jonathan Marchessault and Riley
Right, and
Smith.
all those guys just signed $6 million
Yeah,
contracts.
they're gonna be around for a while, so it's not you're not gonna have a problem with that.
See, I don't know with Vegas.
It's gonna. I mean,
I could see them missing the playoffs next
I
year.
mean, yeah,
I really can,
they're gonna take a step back a little bit. I
for
mean,
sure.
so it's
Like I was in Vegas a couple of weeks ago, and I was at the sports books, and I was talking about this, but the odds for them winning the Western Conference were 3-1. They were a 3-1 favorite to win the Western Conference, and that was just way, way, way too high. I mean, I just didn't get it when I saw that. But I think that they're going to be a decent team next year. I don't think they're going back to the Stanley Cup final. That's for sure.
okay.
Um,
Quick, quick deviation because I'm just looking on the Sportsnet feed from the for the signing period, and we do have breaking news coming out of the Lightning that they've re-signed Ryan McDonough to a 7 year, $47.25 million extension.
okay. Wow, monster extension right there. Because he still had 1 year left on the deal that he was sent over to Tampa Bay with at the deadline. So he'll be a Lightning for a while. That's interesting.
The Lightning, I mean, they're they're a team you can't mess with. They're gonna be good for a while. Like,
No, yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, so I'm looking back at Vegas. Yeah, but Ryan McDonough, what that signing's, they're going to be a contender for a little while. But everyone's throwing jokes at him now. Everyone's calling them the new Capitals. The team that chokes never gets it done. But as you can see, ownership and management is still committing to the cause there, giving a guy like McDonough a big extension like that.
you got to admire Steve Eiserman. He's definitely
He's been a good GM.
Yeah.
Hold on, let's see. Yeah, so William Karlsson is a restricted free agent right now. So is Tomas Nosek, and William Carrier. That's not as big of a deal. Let's see. Yeah, I think both Colin Miller and Shea Theodore, those are two of their best defensemen, are both RFAs right now. So I just think that Vegas saw that they weren't going to have the space to do it. Just to kind of put a wrap on that guy's question. I'm looking at Cap Friendly right now.
Right.
Yeah, what do you think of the McDonough signing, though? I mean, it's typical of Tampa Bay. They're a contender, and they're acting like a contender in the market.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think the thing about the Lightning is, as I said, they're trying to get themselves to be a team that's like essentially a force to be reckoned with for the years to come. And yeah, they've made the Stanley Cup Finals a few years back, and I mean that was about it. And I mean they went to the conference finals this year and a couple years ago also. So I mean they're
Gave up a 3-2 lead.
Yeah.
And gave up a 3-2 lead in the Stanley Cup final against Chicago.
So there's things to be said both in different ways for Tampa Bay, but they're still going to be a fantastic team in these next whatever years. And I think that contract really helps them.
Well, it all depends on Steven Stamkos, too, because that guy's always injured. I know he had a good year this year on the injury front, but it seems like that guy gets hurt every single year. And who's to say that next year won't be any different?
I mean, that biggest problem that he had was blood clots. And I mean, that just doesn't go away forever. It's going to come back. And when it comes back, who knows how long it can sideline him for.
I mean, they missed the playoffs not last year, but the year before because of Stamkos' injury.
Right.
So, I don't know. You never know what's going to happen with the Lightning.
Yeah, you don't.
Because of that.
All right. Let's see. What else? What are some other ones that
we can talk about?
We can touch on.
We have any more questions or?
Let's take a look. No questions at this time, but okay. So we got okay. Here's one. So Carter Hutton is going to be heading to Buffalo, 3 years at $2.75 million a year.
I mean, I think we all expected the Sabres to make a few moves in free agency.
Yeah.
So it's not surprising. I thought that they were going to add, more guys than just that. I'm expecting them to sign a few more people. They have a ton of cap space, and they have a team that looks like it's finally heading in the right direction.
Oh yeah, they've got.
So we'll have to keep an eye on them.
They've definitely got a lot of time left. I mean, we're only 22 minutes into the market opening. So, your thoughts?
We're only how far from the market opening?
We're only 22 minutes into the market.
Oh, opening. Into it. Okay, I thought it already opened. I got confused for a second.
No.
Yeah, see, we're in the Pacific time zone. It's the morning for us right now. It's 9:22.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I was actually up all night. Thank God.
Were you?
Yeah, thank God for coffee. See, I couldn't sleep. Being a Sharks fan, I'm just like, okay, where is Tavares going? Where is Tavares going? I mean, I kind of pondered that all night. that's and I was kind of like worried about preparing for this stream, making sure it was working. A lot of things
Okay.
going on, but anyways, your thoughts?
Okay, I've got some official news though. The Oliver Ekman Larson extension is official. 8 years, AAV of 8.25 million.
Worth it. It's
Worth
good,
it,
very good.
100%. Great to see that he's staying put.
Coyotes locked down a fantastic player in
Top
OEL.
5 D man in the league, in my opinion. I know I might be biased in saying that, but I think it's true. I think he's for sure a top 5 D man in the league. He just plays on a bad team, but he's a very, very good hockey player if you just watch him. If you ever see the Coyotes rolling through your town, or they don't put the Coyotes on national TV pretty much, so you need to have like an NHL TV subscription to watch him. But yeah, no, he's a very good player. And then Cam Ward signed a 1-year, $1 million deal with the Chicago Blackhawks. Thomas Plekanec is heading back to Montreal on a 1-year deal at $2.25 million. Roman Polak heading to Dallas, 1 year, $1.3 million. And then obviously we already talked about the Ryan McDonough extension. Valery Nichushkin is heading back to Dallas. I don't know if you heard about the rumors of that, but he is officially back with the Stars. Signing a 2-year, $2.95 million contract after going back to the KHL for a little bit.
You're seeing a bit of trend of that. You guys going to the KHL and coming back, and it's a very
well. That's why I think they need a transfer window. You remember because we were doing the Olympics podcast back in January, and I was talking about how the NHL was talking with the KHL about a transfer agreement where guys could move between the KHL and the NHL freely within a window. And I think that it would be nice, it would give NHL teams a whole new pool of players to improve their squads with, to get players out of the KHL and just be able to do it in the middle of the season. I think it's way too hard to move between the leagues now, but we went into why that is back then.
And by the way, answering a question, Golden Riot, no, I have not heard anything else on the Devils besides Gleba.
So what's the question? What are the Devils doing?
Yes, have you heard anything on the Devils?
Have you heard anything on the Devils? No, I haven't, honestly. I'll look it up. I'll see what the Devils are up to.
Yeah, nothing besides Eric Gleba's 1 year, $700,000, and that's still with the unconfirmed exclamation point on cap friendly.
Yeah, Bob McKenzie's reporting it on TSN also. But his deal is a two-way deal, though. Gearbuzz.
Yeah.
So he might not even be a roster player.
Yeah, that's an interesting. That's what makes it small, of course. So when you see a contract that small, of course it's.
Ooh, Scott Wedgwood is also heading to Buffalo. 1 year, $650,000. I think he's a goalie, but. Am I right on that?
1 year, $650. That is.
Yeah,
correct.
1 year, $650. Yeah.
So looks like the Buffalo.
Oh yeah, he played for the Yotes for a little bit last year. That's right. Yeah.
Looks like the Buffalo Sabres are actually gonna go for like a goaltending competition.
Yeah, who'd they sign? Wedgwood with Wedgwood, because they got Ullmark and Wedgwood, but I don't know if that's good enough to make them a playoff team next year. I don't know about you.
We'll see in due time.
We'll see. Because they're going in with two unproven guys. They let go of Wedgwood and Leonard. So theoretically, that would be their 1 and 2. Wedgwood and Ullmark. Linus Ullmark. My buddy's a big Sabres fan. He's originally from Buffalo. He's really excited about the season, but I don't know how to feel about it. Because I feel like they're trending in the right direction, but the goaltending stuff makes me worried. Cam Ward's off the market, too.
Right.
like we were saying just a minute ago.
Yeah, over to Chicago.
Yep, and Thomas Vanek is back in Detroit too. 1 year, 3 million.
Yaroslav Halak to Boston, I believe.
Yep, 2 years, 2.75 million average per year. 2.75 per year.
So
Um,
with Halak over to Boston, who's going to be New York's starting goaltender? I mean, you got to assume Grice,
Grice, Grice.
but they need someone more than Grice.
Well, I'm looking at all the signings that I'm seeing here, and I don't see any tendies heading over to New York.
I am hearing, I believe, Grabner to Arizona.
All right.
That's
But the Coyotes keep signing a bunch of centers. I don't know.
I mean,
And I
Chek.
guess you're going to have to move guys to the wing this year.
I mean, Chaika's got something up his sleeve. Who knows what he's doing? But
Who else? There's another one that I saw in here.
yeah, for those of you who are looking at the stream, I've got like 5 different monitors open. I've got my laptop monitor, my double desktop monitor. I got my phone and my Surface tablet everywhere because I'm looking at sources everywhere. Cat friendly, TweetDeck,
Okay,
everywhere.
I don't like this deal right here that I'm seeing right now. Jay Beagle is heading over to Vancouver on a 4 year deal at 3 million per season. You're paying 3 million a season for a guy that was a fourth line center last year.
That's a little too
It's a
much.
little overpaid, don't you think?
Yeah,
Just a tiny bit.
I mean a
I
lot.
don't know what's going on in Vancouver. I don't see it.
Vancouver,
Carter Hutton, Buffalo. That's right. We already talked about that one.
Vancouver is an interesting. They're gonna interesting in I don't know what way to call it, but it's uh, who knows how Vancouver is gonna do. Probably
Right.
probably not well. If I'm being honest.
Wait. I think that I reported this incorrectly, actually. Wait, there's no way that Jack Johnson, though, is making only 3.25 million over 5 seasons, right? So I'm looking at all these
I mean that.
extensions. I'm looking at SiriusXM NHL Network Radio because they're like listing out all the contracts as they go in.
I mean cat friendly listed that. So
As the total value for the whole deal or per season?
Jack Johnson 5 years 16.25
Okay,
total
yeah, so they're
value.
listing it out as per season. Okay, cool. Yeah, so when I said that Jay Beagle is making 3 million a year for 4 years in Vancouver, that's correct.
Yep.
So that'd be a $12 million contract. I guess that's what happens when you win a Stanley Cup. Guys get big paydays right after.
Yeah, I mean
Uh,
it's gonna happen because you're just like, oh, you played in the Stanley Cup winning team, you know, you were a key debt player. Now we want you. But really, though, in terms of the line placements and stuff like that, like I don't know.
yeah, no, I don't either. Hjalmarsson's also staying in Arizona, signing a 2 year, $10 million extension. I don't know if you saw that also.
I did. I saw that one. I believe it was like unofficial either yesterday or a couple days ago, and I was like,
It's official now, as
yeah.
of 31 minutes ago.
I'm like, okay, I can take that.
No, for sure. The Coyotes,
They're
I think they're a playoff team next year.
yeah, they're definitely on their way up, and I'm actually, even though I am a Sharks fan. I mean, of course, I am living here in Tucson, so I'm only a couple hours away from Glendale. I mean, like maybe take a trip up there next season and see how they're doing, how that team's going to do because they're probably going to play well. And of course, we're going to see some Roadrunners players up there from the last season as well. So it's
Oh yeah, a couple of guys are going to graduate for sure.
you gotta assume
Depends who.
You gotta assume Dylan Strom's gonna.
But where did they put him? I would hate
Yeah,
to see if they made him a third line center again next year. But I have a feeling that's what they're going to do.
and that's what's going to frustrate him. He's going to be frustrated. He wouldn't have as good of a production, and they're going to send him back down to the Roadrunners. Like it's going to
Right. And then the whole Coyotes fan base, they're all going to scream and say, whoa, 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 Dylan Strom's a bust. How did we waste the third overall pick on this guy? We could have gotten Werenski. We could have gotten Hannafin. We could have gotten whoever instead, Marner. But I just think that the Coyotes often don't put him in a situation to succeed, in a position to succeed, that is. But we'll see. We'll see what happens next year. We're only speculating at this point.
Oh, yeah.
So far, let's see who else is on here. Yeah, JVR was made official. We already talked about that. Oh yeah, no, JVR is official.
Yeah.
We didn't say that. It's official. $7 million per 5 years in Philly.
We only spoke about it a couple minutes before the market opened, and now that
it's official now.
Became official. How about this though? Not really talking about free agents, but what about the trade market? There's a lot of rumors about Ryan O'Reilly being on the block, and if the Sabres can unload him by the end of today, they won't have to pay his signing bonus. And I mean, but their biggest problem is the asking price for Ryan O'Reilly.
Well, it's going to be high. I mean, he was the second line center for the Sabres last year, and he was a good second line center at that.
From what I'm looking at, though, is looking for a first, a second, and a top prospect.
Okay, so we got a few more contracts coming in. Andrei Svechnikov signed his entry-level deal with the Hurricanes, 3 years, $925,000 per, pretty standard.
Pretty good for him.
Grabner officially signed with the Yotes, 3 years, $3.35 million per. And then Peter Mrazek is heading to the Hurricanes on a 1 year, $1.5 million deal.
Interesting.
Chad Johnson's heading to the Blues. Or is he staying with the Blues? He was staying with the Blues. 1 year, $1.75 million. And Josh Joris is Maple Leafs, 1 year, $650,000. So no really huge deals here. I'd say Grabner is the biggest on that list. But that's what just came in.
Yeah, I'm constantly having to refresh Cat Friendly because it's not always it doesn't load automatically like TweetDeck does. Maybe I should just keep TweetDeck open because things come in faster. No, Cat Friendly is a lot more reliable than TweetDeck because you see a lot of weird people on TweetDeck, people who like to try to report things that aren't actually there, or, But
right.
I've seen a lot of that. For those who don't know, I've been on TweetDeck probably a big amount of time over the last, 72 hours, and well, I can tell you the amount of people talking about John Tavares in a bunch of different tweets and reports. It's like, oh, I'm hearing reports that he's going to sign with X team for this. I'm just like, okay, just stop.
Yeah, it's not official till it's official, right?
Oh, absolutely. So, and that's why, there's a lot of people that are just on the edge of their seat. Most likely Sharks fans and.
Watch him not even sign a deal today.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't. He could. I mean,
he doesn't need to.
He can sign a deal as you said, in
August,
and teams would still be clawing at his neck.
Oh yeah, no, he completely controls the market, Tavares,
and that's why
there's no doubt about that.
That's why a lot of people were saying that they believe that he was holding the market hostage. And of course, it looks like that's.
Looks like that's what's currently happening. The Sharks can't make any moves right now. So even if the Sharks lose out on the Tavares sweepstakes, right? He could be leaving the Sharks hanging for so long that you guys can't improve elsewhere because you're constantly just waiting
I mean,
and seeing.
I think the case of the Sharks though is, I mean, yeah, is if we lose Tavares, the Tavares sweepstakes, there won't be much of a problem for them. They'll just have, I mean, they re-signed Thornton, and they can work something out on that front, at least for now. I mean, and they've got that cap space to work with. I mean, of course, you ideally you get someone to add some depth, but because you have the money to do it. But who knows what they're gonna do, how they're gonna do it. Doug Wilson has made big moves in the past, but who knows what he's gonna do this year, especially.
He was making big moves this offseason. All those trades that the Sharks made, they were pretty good.
Oh yeah, unloading Bodker's contract as
Yeah.
well as buying out Paul Martin. Of course, signing Evander Kane to the extension for 7 years. I mean, speak.
Yeah.
So, speaking of which, I got a chance to read his Players Tribune article yesterday, and I'm just like, you know what?
Doug Wilson's?
No, Evander Kane's.
Evander Kane, sorry.
Yeah, and I was like, yeah, I'm glad you came to San Jose.
Yeah. You know, it was a great situation for him. I think he really enjoyed playing there for the 2 months that he did. You know, it was an easy decision for him to resign.
I mean, in the way he said it too, he's like, I like like I almost immediately felt like I wouldn't say like I guess the way he put it, at home. Like he said, the locker room just felt great. He says like he gets greeted by fans so many times when he goes through Santana Row, and he said like in this one like he got 3 calls when he first got traded. Of course, one from the Sabres GM that he got traded, one from his agent that he got traded, and one from Joe Thornton, who kind of said, "Hey, you're gonna be a Shark." Like,
Didn't he pick him up from the airport
he
too?
picked him up from the airport too, and that tells you something about the Sharks' leadership.
Well, that's the veteran leadership right there.
And
And he wasn't expected to be a leader in the room. You know, in Buffalo he was, in Winnipeg he was, and in Atlanta before that, because I think he's old enough where he played in Atlanta still.
yep.
Well, I think he was too young in Atlanta.
No, he spent I think 2 seasons, maybe 1 season in Atlanta, because
Right.
Atlanta moved in 2011 and he got drafted in 2009.
Okay, yeah. So he was still with the Thrashers.
Think-
Hard to believe that's been so long. It's been 7 years since like the Thrashers were a thing, or a team.
I know.
I wonder how many hockey fans they actually had out in Atlanta. That's the thing. I just don't know enough about that market, because a lot of people make assumptions about the Phoenix market too. You know, that it's not a good market, that it doesn't have enough fans, but it really does. It's just all where the arena is and how bad the team's been. The team's been really bad, so you don't get the casual fans. You go to any given NHL fan base in the league, you know, and they rely a good deal on those, you know, fair weather fans when times are good. And each team only has like a set of hardcore dedicated fans, and the Coyotes do have that. Just the problem is that they live an hour and a half away from the rink on a weekday.
Okay, real quick.
Yeah.
We can continue this in a little bit, but this was actually posted a couple minutes ago on Twitter from Arthur Staple from The Athletic, New York, who confirmed that the Islanders are officially out of the running for John Tavares. So he will not.
Okay, so they're officially eliminated. Tavares is not going
back to the Islanders.
Going back.
So this makes everything. I mean, obviously, we kind of expected that even a week ago. I mean, you said he had a 20% chance of going back anyways.
That's what I said. I put the chances very, very low.
And a lot of people had them high. Of course, you kind of saw through that. But
I broke it down for you. You know,
yeah.
There's just no way that they're going to be a contender anytime soon. The guy's 29. He needs to win now. This is his window.
Yeah, and you got to wonder What?
Oh, it's great being right.
Oh yeah, I never doubted that, but of course you can tell the people who said, "Oh, I believe it's 80-20 or like 90-10." People who had it really that high.
They
Um,
did, and I was arguing with people on Instagram in comment sections,
people who compared it to
and they were saying like,
Stamkos.
"Oh, he's going to stay put," and I was just like, "Okay," because they kept comparing it to the Stamkos situation. That's all they kept doing. I was like, Stamkos' situation was totally different. The Lightning were actually a good team. They were coming off of a Stanley Cup final appearance, and the Islanders are nowhere near that. They're not even close to being a contender. And then some people got mad at me saying, "Oh, they'll be a contender next year." Well, clearly not. They're out of the running for Tavares. So sorry, Islanders fans. I'm sorry. Sucks for you guys, but
I wonder if now that this news is official, you're going to start seeing more fans spurning his jersey. Because we did see one fan do it immediately after midnight. Are we going to see more?
oh, it was a fake jersey though. I saw the video of
Oh,
it. It was
well, it
one of
was.
those ones you buy on like AliExpress for like $20.
Oh, yeah, but it's. Are we going to see
Still
people?
symbolic,
Yeah, are you still going to? Are you going to see people do that with their actual jerseys? Like,
right?
I mean,
I think so.
there's a lot of people. There's a lot of different people. There's different camps that I've noticed. There's like three different camps. One which is just which are really really sad right now, and you can't really read their emotions besides their depression.
Talk about Islanders fans right now.
Yeah, and then
Okay.
there's the other Islanders fans who are absolutely like pissed off and they're wanting to burn his jersey. And then there's the people who I kind of sympathize with because this is exactly how I felt when Marlowe left the Sharks. Is he deserves to enter the free agency market. I appreciated the work work that he provided for the Islanders, and I wish him the best wherever he goes. And I'll cheer him on when he returns to Long Island as an opponent. I'm like, that's exactly how I would feel. Although I would still feel really hurt, as you probably are too. But you gotta say that they deserved to enter at that point in their career to enter the free agency market.
Well, yeah, especially Tavares, though. I mean, Marlowe was way past his prime when he did enter the free agency market, so the situation's a bit different
Yeah,
here.
totally.
But, you know, he still put up with that he gave that organization 9 years to give him a reason to stay on Long Island, to stay in New York, and they just couldn't come up with one. And I feel bad for the fans because Tavares is the best player that the Islanders have had since their dynasty in the 80s when they won 4 cups straight. By far, no question. And now he's gone just like that. But again, like with a player like Tavares, think about the Metropolitan Division. The Islanders should have been the third best team in that division after the Penguins and the Capitals, with a player of that caliber to build their team around, and they never built a good team around him. So that's it. It's pretty black and white to me, Tavares situation.
I mean, you definitely got to give Tavares credit for putting up with the team for that long.
9 years.
Yeah, I mean, I know you had players like Duchesne who, just this last season, he's like, "Nah, I want out. Get me out of here."
Right. Well, Duchesne, I think, jumped the gun because he kept saying, "Oh, I want to be on a playoff team." He goes to the Senators. Senators are one of the worst teams in the league, and then Colorado makes the playoffs.
Yeah, I kind of feel bad.
It's pretty funny.
Case. Yeah, it's funny, but it's. But yeah.
That's what he was quoted as saying.
I mean, totally though. You have so many different cases, on players requesting trades like that, or they really want out because their teams would do because they want to win, and that's the case for a lot of these guys.
Right. No, they do.
That's the case with the.
It's any athlete, man.
Any athlete anywhere, and you.
I don't know why I'm on Philadelphia Cream Cheese's Twitter page right now. I accidentally clicked on it during NHL Free Agency. Sorry, you're gonna get some hot rumors there.
Because we've had, I mean, those happen all over the place, and like you still got to give Tavares credit for at least finishing his ninth season.
Yeah, because he signed a 3-year entry level deal and then obviously a 4-year deal after that, right?
Yeah.
Or no, 5. Or wait, 3, 6 year deal. 3 plus 6, 9. He didn't ask for a trade. He did it all with a smile. You never heard about Tavares really being on the trade up market, seriously. You know, there were small rumors of it, but I don't think there was ever any substance behind it. And he was your guys' captain, and they still got to watch him for 9 years. You know, he's still a fantastic player that New York Islander fans had a chance to watch right in front of them for 9 years. So I'd be sad, but if I was an Islanders fan, I'd be sad, but I'd understand his decision. Because, you know, unless you're one of those irrational fans that thinks that you're going to win the cup every single season, you could see that team was not where it needed to be to keep a guy like Tavares.
Oh yeah. I totally agree. And but you also got to admire the players who remain loyal to their teams, even
No matter what.
No matter what. Like, look at the case with Joe Thornton. Yeah, he didn't start his career with the Sharks. He started with the Boston Bruins and came to the Sharks in 05. But he's been loyal since. Like, he's like...
But, the Sharks are different, though. The Sharks have been consistently a very good team since he got to San Jose.
Yeah,
they only missed the playoffs, once in his entire tenure there?
This, while true, like, he could say, I want to go to a Stanley Cup contending team. Like
they were contenders in the mid 2000s, easy. I mean, like late 2000s, early 2010s.
2009, 2010, 2011. Those were like probably their best 3 years, and then they kind of went on the downhill from then. I think Thornton got stripped of his captaincy in 2014, 2015. After the reverse sweep, he got stripped of his captaincy and everything like that.
When the Kings won 4 straight.
That still haunts me to this day. But, you know.
And people were still chirping you about it when you guys went up 3-0 on Anaheim in the first round.
I got that, and I was like, okay, you do realize
it's not going to happen.
Number one, these are different teams. Technically, because this has been a long time since, in terms of, in the hockey world, in terms of what's been going on. And
yeah, 3 years or 4 years is a while.
Yeah. And this Sharks team is significantly better than the team that got reverse swept. I mean, that team was great, but, like...
I'm still a little bit shook over that Jay Beagle deal, paying $3 million a year for a third-line center. I mean, fourth-line center. I mean, they're the worst team in the Pacific next year, right?
I mean, we talked about that in last week's podcast.
But now I think it's official.
I mean, in the case because Calgary's picking up some pieces, and Edmonton.
I don't think Edmonton's going to be last.
Edmonton's picking up some also. I think there was rumors. I'm not sure if it was ever confirmed about Brodziak coming to or going to Edmonton.
Right.
And like, of course, we talked about Arizona being potential playoff contenders.
They'll fight for a playoff spot this year for sure. They're not. I think they're going to make it, but they're at least going to be fighting for one.
And there's no doubt. I mean, I would say almost no doubt that LA stays good for a little bit.
Yeah, they just brought in Kovalchuk. You know, they have the security of having Doughty around for 8 more years.
Doughty's going to be around for a long time. Just, signing that 8-year extension with average
$11 million per.
$11 million per year. And we were talking about this through text yesterday.
Last night.
Is like whether or not it's worth it. And well, yeah, I mean he's been a fantastic defenseman for.
He's probably the second best D-man in the league.
In terms of for defensive defensemen. Because
right. Just
Or
In
just
general, I
yeah, just
still
in
think Eric Carlson's the best D-man in the league. The Senators and him had an off year last year, but I still stand by Eric Carlson as the best D-man in the league.
I can't wait till Eric Carlson watch once
Oh, he's going to leave
Toronto.
Ottawa. I think there's no chance that he stays. 3 years from now, there's no chance Eric Carlson's a Senator. I'll put it at 1%, actually. Never say never, but that's how I feel about that.
I mean, everyone's
Like, the
talking.
Senators are burning, sinking ship right now.
I mean, everyone's talking about Eric Carlson watch. Like it's eventually going to it's eventually going to happen, and most likely this offseason. Question is, who's willing to pay for the trade, and who knows how that's what exactly it's going to be down that road.
Yeah. Honestly, I could see whoever loses out on the Tavares sweepstakes making a move on Eric Carlson
I wouldn't be
because they were talking about him on the trade market this offseason.
I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Because they're going to be about the same amount of money, expense wise.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're roughly the same caliber player, top 20 guys in the league, top 20 players in the league. Tavares and Carlson are without a doubt in that group. Possibly top 10.
When was Carlson drafted?
08.
Oh,
1 year before Tavares, so he's 1 year older than Tavares.
Still don't really.
Because I know that Doughty, Stamkos, and Carlson all went in the same draft.
Wow, you had a lot of good guys in 08, 09.
Yeah, Doughty was the number 2 overall pick. I don't know if you remember that. Right after Stamkos.
I mean, one thing that caught my mind is, of course, when talking about John Tavares, was he was the number 1 in 2009, and the Sharks currently have the number 4 from 2009. Of course, that being Evander Kane.
Who was number 2 in 09? Was it Victor Hedman? I think it was.
I want to say that, but luckily we have a bunch. I have a
the
bunch
internet.
I have a bunch of technology to my. Yeah, it was Victor Hedman, Matt Duchene was 3, Evander Kane 4, Braden Shen, and Oliver Ekman-Larsson as 5 and 6.
Braden Shen went ahead of Ekman-Larsson?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Picked by the LA Kings.
Oof. Yeah, Ekman-Larsson's a much better player than Braden Shen.
I mean, obviously, you're kind of realizing that now.
Yeah, hindsight's 2020, as they say.
Yeah.
Hedman's a beast, though. I can see him going number 2 over someone like Oliver Ekman-Larsson.
Mm-hmm.
Problem is, if you play on the Coyotes, you're like in a small market of small markets. Like other small markets look big compared to Arizona. You know what I mean? So it's hard to get the notoriety out here for sure.
Yeah.
Because national coverage is almost non-existent for us out here.
Well, it's again that case where people believe that the desert doesn't deserve or anywhere.
It does. They should never leave Phoenix.
But yeah, I totally agree with you on that. I mean, look at Vegas. They're a desert, and look what they've kind of built.
They're half the size of Phoenix too. Phoenix is twice as big as Vegas metro area.
And like, if you really want to get technical too, LA and Anaheim are pretty hot places too.
Yeah, and they're sharing the Southern Californian market, so, and they're doing just fine.
Yeah. Off-topic question from Golden Riot says, do you guys do any other articles and videos, or was this just fun today? I can go ahead and answer that.
Yep.
I'm actually the general manager of the student radio station at the University of Arizona. I do podcasts. Inside the Glass is my podcast that I do almost every week during the school year. I'm also a writer for...
And I co-host it.
Yeah, I'm also a writer for SB Nation, both Arizona Desert Swarm covering the U of A hockey team, as well as Five for Howling covering the Tucson Roadrunners. So I'm a journalism major, so that's I have my own. Do have my fair share of distributing sports news.
And then I'm a beat writer for the Tucson Roadrunners on a website called All Sports Tucson, and I also am affiliated with a website called Pro Hockey News. So that's how Rob and I know each other. We both cover the Roadrunners together. I'm not a journalism major. I'm actually a business major. I just like hockey and I like talking about hockey. Um, so there you go.
So
I played it growing up too. That's where the interest comes from.
yeah, and if you want to know, I never played. I just grew up a big fan of hockey.
Yeah, that a lot of people like that. It's that's how my dad was.
I
Well,
mean,
my dad played actually. He just didn't play much organized, but
I mean, people appreciated that to me too. Like, um, I've had I've had people ask me at U of A where they're just like, so you've never played hockey, yet you talk about hockey as if like you really know it and it's been like your entire life. I would have assumed like you're from Minnesota or something, and I'm just like, no, born and raised in San Jose, California.
Arizona is interesting, because hockey in the East Valley, specifically in places like Tempe, Scottsdale, parts of Phoenix, Chandler, Gilbert, it's a very popular youth sport to play, and it's a great youth sport to play because when it's 115 outside in the middle of June or July up here, it's you're not practicing outside in the sun, you're not practicing outside in the heat. So it's a really good youth sport to play out here. And a lot of high schools have teams. There's about 20 high schools in Phoenix that have teams. Like at my high school, Desert Vista High School in Phoenix, there were just as many hockey players as football, baseball, basketball, whatever. Like it was, you would think it was a school in like the Midwest or something, but no, it's Phoenix, Arizona. So when I talk to people from Arizona, they're not as surprised. But when I talk to people who are from out of state, they're surprised to hear that I was born and raised in Arizona. I grew up playing hockey.
Yeah, I still find that funny, but hey, I mean,
Hey, there's 6 rinks out here. Most of them have multiple sheets. A lot of kids play. It's growing too. It's even bigger now than when I was a kid.
oh yeah,
ASU
just
has a
the
D1 team. Think about that. And a lot of their players, like they have several players on ASU's roster that are Arizona born and trained players. Like Johnny Walker went to my elementary school and he's playing for them right now. And then Connor Stewart also went to my elementary and middle school and he committed to them. So Arizona has a pretty decent hockey scene. You wouldn't think that, but they do. Or Phoenix does. Tucson doesn't really, but Phoenix does.
okay. So Elliot Friedman on Twitter is reporting a 7-year contract for Tavares in Toronto.
Oh, sorry, bud.
I mean, I am. Yep, SiriusXM is posting
Also
here.
reporting it.
Yeah, John Tavares has agreed to terms with the Toronto Maple Leafs. So, well,
Hmm.
I mean, it's his hometown. I can kind of get that.
The money doesn't make sense.
I want to know what the case is for that, though. Okay, John Tavares just posted something. I mean, he didn't say anything about the Maple Leafs yet, but he just posted a kind of goodbye letter to the Islanders. And then yeah,
They might give Tavares the C. I wouldn't be surprised if they name him captain immediately.
I'm reading the note right now. It says, I'm thankful to have the opportunity to be an Islander as long as I did. The island, the fans, the organization, my teammates will always be special, and my family. But it's time to live my childhood dream here in Toronto.
I can see it. He's pulled a LeBron. He basically did the hockey equivalent of what LeBron James did a couple years ago. He went home.
Yep, and now it's officially on the stream or the TV feed up on here. I mean, yeah, it's his hometown. I'm not gonna get mad at him for choosing Toronto. Of course, I would have hoped he chose San Jose because I think that would have made San Jose a super Stanley Cup contender. But you know, we do finally have a decision, and I mean, with it over, I think very well that the Sharks can go after Erik Karlsson now.
That's what they'll do.
Question is, what are they willing to pay up for trade?
I don't know. I'm just still thinking about the implications of Tavares in Toronto. I don't know about you.
I mean,
that means that they're still going to be rolling with guys like Ron Hainsey as their number one defenseman. How do you feel about it? Toronto's too top heavy. Their forward group is just so much better than their defensive core. It's just ridiculous. And they're going to have to move somebody like Marner. They're not going to get rid of Matthews. Who knows? Maybe they will. Probably not. Definitely not. But next year, they're going to be in cap hell. That's for sure. When both of those guys are restricted free agents.
We're going to see how that turns out. First of all, how much money are the Leafs giving him? Like, that's never been. That's the thing that hasn't posted. It just says, 7 years, and he posted that he's going there, but there is no.
There's no money next to it. I don't see any cash attached to it. The terms of the deal, that is. That's crazy, though. I'm a little bit disappointed. I'm not a big Leafs guy, obviously, being a Red Wings fan.
They're in the same division, so.
Okay, Bob McKenzie's reporting now that action is picking up on Erik Karlsson trade talks in Ottawa.
Literally right after the announcement, San Jose is like, all right, let's go. Doug Wilson will not escape a beat.
Apparently, part of what's going to make the asking price lower for Erik Karlsson is also taking Bobby Ryan's contract with Erik Karlsson. Apparently, that's what Bob McKenzie's reporting. Some teams are prepared to take Bobby Ryan, others are not.
You think San Jose would take that up?
Do they have the cap space to do it? I mean, we were looking at how much room they had.
They had almost 19
And Bobby
million.
Ryan's on a pretty awful deal. I'll look up what he's making right now. Let's see. What's he making? I'm trying to find it as we speak.
And of course, at this time, Cat Friendly decides to load slowly.
Oh, that's what it's exactly doing the same thing to me right now.
Probably because everyone's trying to figure out what the numbers are for Tavares' deal. And,
I'm not even going to look. It's a Canadian website, and you know that every Toronto Maple Leafs fan on the planet right now is looking up, trying to find out what Tavares is going to make.
Yeah, I think.
But the financial situation makes no sense to me. Zero. Of him going to Toronto for 7 years. Yeah, we live in the salary cap era. This isn't 1996.
Yeah, this could very well hurt Toronto depending on exactly how much money they're giving him.
I haven't seen any reports of it.
You gotta assume it was at least a decent amount of money.
It's at least $10 million. I'd be shocked if it was lower than $10 million. It's got to be at least $10 million.
Still not posting anything, so.
There's no way that he's making less than, Kane and Taves got a couple years back. you know? So, no way.
So now Eric Carlson watch does begin as Tavares
Yes, it
watch
does. And I think
ends.
he moves before the start of next season. He took the puck out of the net in his last game in Ottawa. I don't know if you saw that,
Okay,
but
so I'm actually seeing reports now that it's 7 years, $77 million, so $11 million a year.
yep, told you at least 10 million. But oh man, Toronto, Toronto, Toronto.
And I mean, I guess that tells you something that it wasn't all about the money, because if the reports were true about San Jose's contract offer, an extra 2 million.
It was about winning.
If it was,
You know,
I don't
Toronto's
know,
not
cause
a bad team.
yeah, because if it was about winning, though, I mean, there's a lot of ways you can look at it. Um, of course, I'm not gonna try to complain too much. His decision is his decision, and I think
He's
all of
playing for
us,
his hometown squad. I can
yeah.
see it. You know, if I was a player in the NHL and I had the chance to play for the Red Wings, I would take it in a second.
Oh, absolutely.
Or the Coyotes. Red Wings more, but um,
I mean, if
you
I,
know, and I
yeah,
think playing for an original six organization is something special too. All those franchises are just the class of the league. You know, they've been around for so long. Um, but it's going to be really interesting to see what the Atlantic looks like next year because it's going to be a big. There's going to be a lot going on between Tampa Bay, Boston, and Toronto. I'm going to be really curious to see how that situation shakes out. Um, then teams on the upswing, or a team singular like Buffalo, they're going to be, if they make the playoffs, they're a wild card team because I don't see them pushing Boston, Toronto, or Tampa Bay out of the top three unless some crazy injury stuff happens. You know. Um,
you know what's interesting though is I've always like in the last couple of years considered the Atlantic to be a lot more like of a lesser division. I mean, they're starting to pick up, and I'm like, okay, I like at least.
the Atlantic Division, yeah. Well, it was always considered weak compared to the Metro because the Metro would send like 5 teams every year,
I
and
mean,
the Atlantic would only send 3.
yeah, the Metro's always been stacked, and that's that tells you something. Like,
Well, it looks like the Atlantic is going to be stacked now because I think that Buffalo is actually going to be a pretty decent team next year, especially if they can figure out something on the goaltending front. Um, but I still don't see them being better than Toronto, Boston, or Tampa Bay in any situation, barring injury. You know.
right?
So that's going to be real tough for them. So a team like Buffalo on the upswing is going to have to battle some really tough teams before they finally. Because I consider a rebuild done the first time that you make the playoffs after going into that full-on rebuild. You know.
Mm-hmm.
But here's an interesting question about Toronto: who centers line 1 and 2 in Toronto? Is Tavares the top line center, or is Matthews the top line center?
I mean, you'd gotta assume Tavares would be.
Matthews is a good player too.
He is, but if we're talking about experience-wise,
Yeah, Tavares.
I mean, you
It's
got
gonna be like a Malkin Crosby type deal, except they don't have blue liners behind him. But they didn't in Pittsburgh either. In Pittsburgh, they won in 2016 with Chris Kunitz hurt, and Kunitz was a non-factor in the postseason this year. Hey, maybe the Sharks make a move for Kessel. Kessel's on the market if you guys are looking to add offense.
I don't know. I guess we gotta look. I mean, I gotta take a look into see how that's gonna turn
How
out.
that'll look. The Coyotes are still in the mix for Kessel too, from what I heard, from the rumors that I heard. Um, And I don't, now that Tavares isn't going to San Jose, I feel entirely different about the Pacific. Um, Completely. I
Right.
still think the Sharks are a playoff team, but I feel like the division crown is a bit more open than it was before.
I mean that that can very well depend on what Doug Wilson
What
can
other
do.
moves San Jose and other teams make? Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Hey, what if the Coyotes? The Coyotes have cap space for days. What if the Coyotes trade? They get Ekman Larson. I mean, not Ekman Larson. Carlson and Bobby Ryan over to Arizona. They fork out. I know they're a low budget team, so I'm dreaming here, but they, I guess they could do it if they actually were willing to pay the money.
I mean, yeah. I mean,
But wouldn't that just be nuts?
yeah.
Think about how nasty that top four is now, right? You got, or that defensive group is now, because you would have Ekman Larson, Carlson, Hjalmarsson, Alex Goligoski, Jacob Chikrin is a great young D-man too, and then plug somebody in at 6. Who cares? But that group of 5 is just incredible.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
I mean,
And then Bobby Ryan, who knows? Maybe he's just the type of guy that needs a change of scenery. Maybe the Coyotes will be in on it.
I mean,
just depends if their owners are willing to pay.
I mean, in the case of the Sharks too. I mean, we've constantly talked about their blue line and
How good it is.
Yeah. I mean, when you have Brett Burns, Justin Braun, Mark Edward Vlasic, and guys like, I think you can't go wrong with them. And
no.
And if they were to add someone like Erik Karlsson to that mix, my God, how they can.
You guys would probably be you would definitely be playing Burns and Karlsson on different pairs.
Oh yeah,
so you would have a 1-2 punch in your top 4 group of the two best offensive D-men in the league, hands down. So let's see. I'm seeing what else is coming in.
Of course, Cap Friendly still wants to not work.
Yep. Let's see.
So it looks like I'm just gonna try to rely on Twitter for a little bit at least.
That's what I'm doing too. I'm trying to see what.
Okay, let me take Tavares Watch off my.
Well, okay, JVR is off of Toronto's books, so we can say that they have more cap space there on that front, right?
I mean,
but I'm looking at this on TSN's Twitter page, right? The 2018-19 offseason roster for the Maple Leafs as of today. You still have McElhinney backing up Freddie Anderson, so you don't have a real backup goalie in Toronto. You have an AHL starter as your second goalie. And AHL starter versus NHL backup, it's completely different. Morgan Riley and Ron Hainsey as your top pair. And then Jake Gardner, the guy that basically won the series for Boston. And Nikita Zaitsev, pair 2. And, even with Tavares, I still feel that the Leafs forward group obviously is unreal now. You got Matthews, Nylander, Marner, Hyman, Marlowe, Kadri, Connor Brown. Just so many guys.
See, there's another thing where I'm just like, if Tavares can take them to a...
It was the hometown discount. That's what he did.
Yeah. And one thing I'm looking at, if he can take them to a Stanley Cup, maybe get them their first Stanley Cup since '67, I wouldn't be mad at that. And
I would be. I don't like Toronto.
For me, for one reason only though, is Marlowe gets a Stanley Cup.
All right.
And of course, as a full-blooded San Jose Sharks fan, a guy that was on the Sharks from '97 all the way up until last year, he was Mr. Shark, and he didn't get a cup with us. I hope he at least gets a cup before he retires.
I don't know. We'll see. I still don't see it happening because I think that they don't have a true backup goalie. Their D is still awful. And they don't even have the money to improve in those areas. That's the more important thing. Because if this was 1996 when, you could just sign anyone for anything, it'd be different, but no. Let's see.
Yeah, I'm looking at a lot of people were talking like the Eric Carlson talks definitely have picked up in the last couple minutes.
Yeah, as you would expect.
It it
Toronto.
it, it
I don't know how I feel about it. Part of me is like, good for him. He's playing for his hometown. The Leafs were a pretty good team last year, but um, there are some glaring weaknesses in their lineup. There's just no two ways about it.
Let's see.
The West looks different now because the prospect of Tavares coming over to the West was um, would have been really interesting having McDavid and Tavares in the same division. Um, it's all I don't know. Let's see. Let's see who else is coming in. Yeah, Nick Alberga of SiriusXM NHL Network just tweeted. So, do the Leafs introduce JT as the captain?
Um,
I think there's a
why
chance.
why not? I mean,
He's been around for a while. He's a great player. He's a Toronto boy. He grew up, born and raised there.
and he's proven to have leadership.
Uh huh.
So yeah, I mean I can see it.
Yeah, I can see it too. Let's see who else is. Yeah, Cap Friendly just tweeted also that John Tavares just crashed their site. Their site crashed because of the Tavares signing.
Yeah, not surprised at all.
Yeah. Um, let's see if we have any questions. I pulled it up. No.
Nope, nothing.
Does it automatically refresh?
It should. Yeah. By the way, anyone else who is watching, I don't know how many people we do have watching right now, but feel free to throw us any questions if you have any. We're wanting to keep up with as many topics as
Yeah.
possible. And
You want to talk hockey in Arizona, the non-professional scene. I know that inside out. So if you have any questions about that, I can go on for hours. Um, hmm. So what do you think about the Atlantic next year? Who wins the Atlantic
ooh,
now that Tavares is the Maple Leaf?
um,
Still Tampa Bay?
oh yeah,
You think?
um,
I think Toronto will be. Is Toronto a better team than Boston now?
I say yes.
I hesitantly say yes, but again, I still don't like their goaltending and defensive group. There's just
I mean, I saw someone tweet and I found it pretty funny. And they're just like, so the Leafs are going to be moving Tavares to D-man and goaltender, right?
yeah. That's exactly my feelings right there. I should retweet whoever wrote that. Who wrote that?
I gotta find who tweeted that because it
Who tweeted that? Yeah, yeah.
I think it's at Chester Chivo.
John Moore has signed a 5-year deal with the Bruins, AAV of $2.75 million. Also,
All right.
he's at least going to get an A, though.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. But you know what was
Sweet.
yeah. But still, again though I do have almost no doubt that the Lightning are going to be still first in the Atlantic.
Hey, if Stamkos gets hurt again like he always does, then Toronto or Boston could easily slide in there. I mean, Boston was only 1 point off of winning the division last year. Let's not forget that.
I mean, the Lightning still I do have Nikita Kucherov, and he's still
I know,
Like,
but they
so
had Kucherov in 2016 also, and they missed the postseason. Excuse me.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. The NHL's weird. There's always a team that you expect to miss the playoffs to miss it, to make the playoffs that misses it and surprises everyone. Like last year, people were picking Edmonton to win the Western Conference at the beginning of last season, right? And um, they didn't even make the playoffs. It was the biggest surprise of the season. I think Edmonton not making was almost as big of a surprise as Vegas being as good as they were.
yeah.
Edmonton missing the postseason. But Edmonton did all kinds of weird stuff. I still don't understand the Eberle trade, especially. The Hall trade is not aging well. We can say that.
With
Um,
yeah,
with we can confidently say that.
I mean the NHL awards will tell you that.
Yeah, I saw a Instagram post that saying that Peter Chiarelli should not be a GM ever again in the NHL just because of this one picture, and it shows Hall accepting the Hart. Well deserved, by the way. We already touched on that a few days ago, though. But are we still waiting for any big news, or I think all big free agent guys are off the market at this point.
It seems like that for now. Um,
Let's see. Um,
of course, I can't go back to cat friendly unless it's finally back.
John Tavares just tweeted 19 minutes ago, I'm thrilled to be starting a new chapter of my career in life in Toronto with the @Maple Leafs. I feel very fortunate to come join a team with a great young core and play where I grew up learning and loving the game. I can't wait to get started.
Okay.
That's what he said. Leafs fans are so excited right now. Just wait. On social media, all you're going to see is like, oh, the Leafs are going to win the cup. The Leafs are going to win the cup no matter what. But what happens if Freddie Anderson goes down? One guy can get hurt really, really easy in this league,
Oh yeah.
And Ron Hainsey has no business being a number one D man at this point in his career. So I'm still not buying what the Leafs are selling at this point.
Yeah. Well, of course, we'll see in due time. The season is still, what is it like?
Still,
80 days.
We're just under 100 days away.
Yeah, it's got a long time. A lot can happen. Who knows? But this is only the first day of free agency, and of course, the biggest names get taken off today. But
oh yeah, we already got a lot of those guys. So, what do you think of? Okay, so Svechnikov makes the Hurricanes next year. He signed his entry-level deal. I have not seen reports of Deline signing his deals, but it's really easy for stuff like that to get lost in the shuffle on a day like this, Yeah, Jonathan Bernier is heading to the Red Wings. I don't know if I touched on that, but it's a 3-year deal, $3 million per. So that's going to be Jimmy Howard's new backup in Detroit. I like it, now that Mrazek's gone and Howard's getting older, why not bring in a guy like Bernier? I'm not against it.
I forgot that.
I don't think the Red Wings are a playoff team next year. I can tell you that. I think Buffalo is probably better than them. Toronto, Boston, and Tampa Bay sure are definitely better than them. I guess you never know, but you know what I'm saying. Unless Philip Zadina wins the Rocket next year, I feel like the Red Wings aren't a playoff team.
Yeah, they're still in that rebuild mode, and it's going to take them a little bit.
And they should be. I wouldn't want them to exit their rebuild right now. They need to keep doing it. But I like the signings that Ken Holland is making right now. I think that they're just enough, to make sure that the Red Wings aren't completely depleted. Like, I think that that's a mistake that the Sabres did when they did their rebuild. I think they almost went too deep into it, and they're having a hard time exiting because of it. Like, the Red Wings are staying afloat as much as they can,
Yeah.
Um, but I think that Ottawa and Montreal are both worse teams than the Red Wings are. Um, but that almost makes me a little bit worried because the Red Wings still need better prospects than they have. I mean, they're finally on the upswing again. But I feel like they still need a few good draft years, getting a couple of good guys, with lottery picks before they're ready to become the Red Wings that they used to be. So I'm not sure. Ken Holland's a smart guy. He's been around for a long time. So we'll see what his master plan is here. I'm not going to doubt it. He did great for us in the draft this year, so.
Just as you are excited for that, I'm still excited to see what Doug Wilson can do. I mean, I wouldn't say great draft. He had a pretty okay
No,
draft.
that's not good.
I mean, Ryan Merkley is a wild card. I don't know how that's going to end up turning out. Of course, it's kind of hard because the defensive core for the Sharks is already, like, got its,
Yeah, but if you guys
but
brought in Erik Karlsson, you guys would be the Pacific Division's version of the Predators, basically. Not really, not quite, but you know what I mean. Just like unreal blue line. Because the Predators' top four group is way different than San Jose's top four group would be, even with an Erik Karlsson in the fold. But seeing two of the best D-men in the league on the same team would certainly be really exciting.
Oh, no doubt about that.
So SiriusXM NHL Network Radio, all right, as Tavares' watch continues, what song... Okay, never mind. That's
quite old now.
It's a dumb tweet, yeah. It's old, too. Yeah, what do you think about Stastny leaving Winnipeg, though? I feel like...
I mean, it's interesting because we mentioned it earlier where when the Jets were trying to unload cap space so they can try to give him an offer. And then when they kind of did, he's like, I'm going to look elsewhere. And he goes ahead and signs with Vegas. Interesting.
Well, Vegas is a better team now that they have Stastny in the mix.
Yeah,
because he's going to center either line 1 or 2. You don't. Maybe Marchessault goes down to line 2. Who knows? I don't think that people should be making any assumptions based off of what happened in Vegas's first season. I think they were riding a lot of momentum based off of the tragedy on October 1st, right? I think everyone on that team played with a chip on their shoulder, being rejected from their teams, and getting sent out there in the first place. So there was that. They were a very motivated hockey club for those two reasons. And then Gerard Gallant coached an excellent system, that was all about speed in the neutral zone and just forechecking and just playing very, very aggressive hockey, very fast hockey. And as you saw in the Stanley Cup Finals, the Capitals found a way to neutralize that. So the cat's out of the bag, so to speak. People know how to beat Vegas now. So I mean, I'm not going to doubt them because they've been doing since they became a franchise is proving the doubters wrong. I mean, I was one of the people saying that Vegas was going to finish behind Arizona in the Pacific.
I mean,
like when my buddy told me, because I was texting him before the season, he was talking about Vegas and he's a big Penguins fan. And I was telling him, I was like, okay, all these people saying that Vegas is going to be competitive with Arizona they just don't know what they're talking about. Arizona is a much better team. That did not age well, for one. And
I mean, that happened for a lot of us. I said on the preseason podcast for Inside the Glass last season, it's like, yeah, they might be lucky to get like in the mid 70 points, but no.
That's exactly what some people were saying. They were saying that like, okay, yeah, a good season for Vegas will be them getting like 76 points.
And what was it? Then they getting 109?
They broke. I think they were like 109.
Yeah, I think
or something
they were,
like that.
I think they were 109 because I know the top 3 in the Pacific were all 100.
Yeah. San Jose just barely cracked the 100-point mark.
Yeah.
At the third seed.
Yeah.
And then LA was really close too. I think LA was at like 98. But yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's it for the really big free agents right now. So we can kind of start talking, wrap it up with some of the implications from some of the bigger signings, right? So why don't we head from west to east
All
of
right.
who went where? Let's start off with Vancouver, my favorite. Um, Starting in the Pacific Northwest there. Worst team in the Pacific for sure next year. Paying a fourth line center $3 million per season. The Sedins are gone. Bo Horvat and Brock Besser aren't going to carry that team to the playoffs. Um,
I mean,
you know, I think that Quinn Hughes
yeah.
stays one more year at U of M. I haven't seen any reports of him signing an entry level deal, so they're not getting help on that front. Um, Markstrom's all right, but again, he's no Carey Price, you
Hmm.
know. So, what do you think of my quick and dirty 2.5 minute assessment of Vancouver?
I mean, there's not much else to put it. I mean, there's uh, Vancouver's in tough, and they're just in a tough spot. There's not really much they can do right now.
It's not good.
Yeah.
I think the problem with Vancouver is that they tried staying competitive for too long, if that makes sense, because they were a playoff team not that long ago. Didn't they make it in like 16 or 15?
I want to say so, and I mean, like,
Yeah.
if you wanna go like 7 years back, they were in the Cup Finals as the President's Trophy.
Well, they were unreal back then. They had like won the
Oh,
President's Trophy 2 years in a row. And then they got swept by the Kings in round one in 2012, which was hilarious. See, as an American hockey guy, I think it's hilarious that Canadian teams haven't won the Cup since 1993. So, you know, um, I just think it's funny. So I always like seeing stuff like that happen. It's not, I don't have anything against Canada, but I just think it's funny that the country that likes hockey the most in the world, their teams just don't have any luck in the postseason.
yeah. I mean, it's. I mean, then again, you have a lot of Canadian players coming down.
Right, right. But now it seems like Canada is just taking all the good American players, which is like I don't like that Matthews plays in the Canadian market. He's an Arizona guy. He's from Scottsdale. I mean, I had buddies that played with him growing up. Like my best friend here in Phoenix played on a team with Matthews. I didn't personally, but like I knew of him growing up. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because he's a 97. I'm a 97. You know what I mean? Um, and yeah, I wish that he was playing in a non-traditional market. I think that would have been much more fitting than him playing in Toronto. But him in Toronto, what I will say about Matthews in Toronto, though, is that he gives the game in Arizona a lot more visibility. Because I went to the New Year's Eve game last year between Vegas and Toronto, which was just a blast. It was the first home hat trick in Vegas Golden Knights franchise history. William Karlsson scored it. And I was talking to some Leafs fans before the game, you know, about being from Arizona, about playing the game out here, and talking about Austin Matthews. And they were talking to me about the hockey scene in Arizona, and they were asking me about it, you know, questions about it. And it's good that the biggest hockey market in the world, which is Toronto, without a doubt, because Toronto's honestly big enough to support two teams, but it doesn't for whatever reason. So the Leafs are playing in the biggest market, and it's not split with anyone else. You know what I'm saying? And the fact that Matthews is there really gives the game in Arizona a lot of visibility. And Austin Matthews is arguably the best reason to keep a team in Arizona because he has said outright that if my uncle didn't take me to a Phoenix Coyotes game back in the day, which obviously they were called the Phoenix Coyotes back then, that he never would have played hockey. His dad didn't play hockey. His mom is a Mexican immigrant, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and so no one in her family played hockey. And he said that too. Um, so he was great for the game. The only reason why that the NHL has a player like Austin Matthews is that the Phoenix Coyotes were out here, you know, and people in Toronto know that, and people in Canada know that because he's playing with the Leafs.
Right. Totally. Totally.
Yeah, um, and that's why it's great to have the Coyotes out here because basically out here in Arizona, most of the players that you got that I would play with growing up were kids from places like were either kids from, you know, like New York, Illinois, Michigan, cold weather states, or like their parents were from there, which is me. Like, I was born out here, but my dad's from Michigan. He played growing up. He was a fan of the game growing up, so I played. But you did get a lot of those first-generation hockey players that became fans of the game because of the Coyotes and ended up playing hockey themselves. And that's how you're going to grow the game. USA Hockey. I was actually looking at membership statistics that in 1995, I was looking at this in 2015, right? But I still remember the numbers. In 1995, there were roughly 250,000 members of USA Hockey, which is what you have to register with if you're playing the game at any level here in the United States, organized, right?
Mm-hmm.
And by 2015, it had doubled to 500,000 officially registered players through USA Hockey, right? And they said that 75% of that growth have come from states like Arizona, like California, like Texas, like Florida. So having the teams out here in the warm weather markets has worked for the NHL in terms of growing the game. Now, what about Quebec City, Rob? What do you think of Quebec City? Do they get a team? Does Ottawa move over there? Because I have some thoughts on that, but I want to hear what you say first.
I mean, I don't know. I'm a bit off and on about Quebec City. I mean, I know one thing for sure is apparently Gary Bettman does not want Quebec City to have a team.
It doesn't make sense.
He says it just doesn't work. He says it's too small, and it's I don't know. Speaking of Gary Bettman, we'll probably talk about it another time. But him making the Hall of Fame as a builder.
What are your thoughts on JVR? Golden Riot just posted that a few minutes ago. So I hope you're still on, bud. But my thoughts on James Van Riemsdyk, Toronto had to get rid of him, especially considering that we'll get back to Quebec City in a second. I think we should answer you guys' question, right?
Oh, yeah.
I think that Toronto needed to get rid of the cap space, 2 sign Tavares and have a fighting chance at keeping guys like Marner and Matthews in a Maple Leaf uniform in the near future. If they were going to keep JVR, they would have had to sign him to a multi-year deal. And if you were to have James Van Riemsdyk and John Tavares and Matthews and Marner, who are on the eve of becoming restricted free agents, William Nylander is a restricted free agent right now, right?
That's cap
the Leafs just
right
would have
there.
been that's beyond cap hell. That's like the 7th level of cap hell. You know what I mean? It's just they just couldn't do it. And he went back to Philly. He's a New Jersey guy. I think that Philly was his favorite team growing up because he grew up in southern New Jersey.
And I believe he got drafted as a
Flyer.
As a
also.
Flyer, so he's going back to his first team. I mean, yeah.
It makes sense that the Leafs got rid of him, and JVR is basically going back to his neck of the woods. I still don't know how I feel about Philly as a team. Their goaltending just never seems to be there. They thought that they could bring in Brian Elliott and that would solve everything. It ended up not. Again, I always go back to Blue Lines. I'm like a broken record when it comes to talking about teams' defensive cores, but it's not that good. It's true for a lot of teams in the league, though. Even Washington, the reigning Stanley Cup champions, outside of like John Carlson and Dmitry Orlov and Matt Niskanen are like their average second pair D-men in the league. So, Washington's defensive core was average at best, and they still won the Stanley Cup. So if you're like a Flyers fan, if that's what your team is, bud, I mean, hey, maybe they are a better team this year. Maybe they do get past the first round. But the goaltending situation needs to be shored up. But in NHL, starting goaltenders just don't grow on trees in this league.
Right.
Bona fide NHL starting goaltenders, your Jonathan Quicks, Carey Prices, those types of guys. Or Hellebuck now, like he's the rising star for sure. Vasilevsky, people like that.
Yeah, it took a while until the Sharks actually found ourselves with someone as reliable as Martin Jones. I mean, Niemi was supposed to be that, but was he? No.
Niemi wasn't a bad goalie for you guys. He just kind of couldn't get it done for you in the playoffs there. But Martin Jones has just been excellent.
Yeah.
And that's really interesting. I love it. It's interesting when backups who were backups on really good teams behind really good starting goaltenders become starters elsewhere. Because think about it, Martin Jones was basically mentored by Jonathan Quick,
What
one
I
of the best goalies of his generation.
what I love though is the way that the Sharks acquired him. Is like the Kings didn't want it. They probably didn't want it to happen, but there's like, all right, we're going to ship you off
Boston,
to
ship you to the
Boston.
East.
So shipping to the East because we don't want to have to play you very often because we know the potential you got. And then the Sharks turn around and say, all right, we'll trade you for we'll get Martin Jones for a first round draft pick, and then like deal, and then comes back to the West, right into the same state, and
Top rival, because the two top rivals for the Kings are the Sharks and the Ducks by far.
um
Golden Knights is a new one, but I still think the whole California
yeah
rivalry thing has like a more
yeah
romantic notion that gives it something extra.
yeah the Battle of California is top by far.
Yeah, it gives it something a little extra. The freeway series, as they call it, between Anaheim and LA, and then you have NorCal versus SoCal. Bay Area versus LA, and the Kings and the Sharks. It's just always going to be the biggest rivalry.
Anytime,
any place, anywhere.
any sport.
But and I think that as Vegas gets more franchises, pro sports franchises, that the Phoenix-Vegas rivalry is going to become bigger, because Phoenix and Vegas are the two largest and most significant cities in the American Southwest by far. And I think that the Californian teams are always going to care a little bit more about each other than they do care about the desert teams. So I think that those will be budding rivalries in the future for sure, unless when Seattle enters the league, because let's be real, Seattle is going to enter the league. I think they already paid the expansion fee now, didn't they?
I believe so. They paid the expansion fee, and they got the season ticket drive and everything like that.
Yeah, and it like sold out in minutes, right?
All they need is for Gary Bettman to say yes.
And he's going to, because he wants to expand into more American markets. Seattle seems to be a good market. I think Houston could be in play in the future, though. I think Ottawa could potentially move out to Houston.
Bring back
and going back to the Quebec City thing, right? Is that hockey's business fundamentally. That's why I'm studying business right now. That's why I'm going to go to law school, and that's why I'm going to try to work for a team eventually, right? If you just think about it logically, right? Houston's the fourth largest city in the United States, city proper, right? And Quebec City has less than 1 million people in its metro area. You know what I'm saying? So even if a hockey team in Houston is not the most popular team in its market, which it won't be, it'll be behind the Astros, the Texans, and the Rockets, probably, at least for its first couple of years,
Right.
You're still probably going to be dealing with a larger potential fan base in Houston than you would be in Quebec City. And that's why the NHL has favored for many years going to southern American cities and southwestern cities, Pacific Coast cities, and expanding there rather than going to places, like Saskatoon, Regina, Quebec City, Halifax, And that's, if Canadians were running the league, you see people, I've seen some hilarious videos on YouTube, Rob. You can look it up. I saw it one time, and it was how would the NHL look if you made the majority of the franchises Canadian, right? And this guy moved every single team out of the southern U.S., or like not southern U.S., but like the warm weather markets.
The Sun Belt.
Except who? Who did he keep out in the West? Who was the only team that he kept in a warm weather market?
Who would that be?
Take a guess. Think. It's interesting. When I saw that, I was like, oh, interesting. He left them there. Kings.
Oh.
That's the only warm weather market that he thought deserved a team. Maybe just because it's the second biggest city in the U.S.
It's the expansion six. They're one of those.
Yeah, it could be that too.
They've been around for over 50 years, so.
Yeah. So yeah, he moved like teams to like all kinds of weird places. Like he was putting teams in Saskatoon,
Yeah,
Halifax,
there's no
St. John's,
there
Nova
would
Scotia.
there would be no way in hell the Sharks lose. Like the San Jose loses the Sharks. Like
Oh no, no, no. This is like totally a
yeah.
theoretical,
Yeah, I
like
mean, yeah, so I don't
out there video.
so a thought even to put those kind of like things like for like San Jose losing the Sharks or for Anaheim losing the Ducks, like these are areas in which like it's
They have solid fan
they have
bases, yeah.
solid fan bases. I mean, I've never been to the Honda Center, but I've met a good amount of Ducks fans, and of course, being from San Jose, I can tell you the SAP Center sells out almost every game.
And let's not forget, on top of that, on top of the fan base, like let's put the fan bases in the warm weather cities aside because we're both from warm weather cities and we both know what the game looks like out here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Put all that aside. The Canadian dollar is weak right now. The Canadian dollar is only trading with the US dollar right now for something like 73 cents per, right? And anytime in NHL history that the Canadian dollar has been weak, Canadian teams have been under financial pressure to leave and move. That's why the original Winnipeg Jets came out to Phoenix in 96 is that they financially couldn't sustain themselves in Canada's smallest market with the weakest exchange, with a weak US Canadian dollar exchange rate. Because all the salaries in the league are paid in US dollars. All of the salary cap figures, everything, ticket revenues, all of that is reported in US dollars. And when the Canadian US dollar exchange rate is weak, it's a liability for Canadian teams. Obviously, if you're in Toronto or Montreal, you're in such a big market that you're never really going to get hit that hard by it. But if you're a team like Winnipeg back in the day or Quebec back in the day, when they both moved in the late 90s out to Colorado and Phoenix respectively, it's a factor. And right now that the same financial situation exists. That's kind of the short of what I'm saying here, what I'm getting at here.
Right.
But hey, maybe that was a factor in Tavares going over to Toronto. You get paid in US dollars and the exchange rate's really strong right now. The dollar, we have a strong dollar versus Canadian dollar. It might result in more take-home income.
Yeah.
Because let me see what the.
I mean, he can also get the get like a bunch more endorsements up there, like.
Oh yeah, no, he is the man.
He's going to be
in
swimming in
Toronto.
endorsements.
Exchange rate. I would think it'd be fun to play for a Canadian team though. Like if I was a pro hockey player right now. Okay, so $1 US is $1.31 in Canadian dollars. Let me see what $1 Canadian dollar is to a US dollar. What it was. I thought it was like 73 cents. 76 cents. So 76 US cents is $1 Canadian dollar. So let's see what 11 million a season is, because I know that the structure of his contract is probably a little bit different. That's just the annual average, right? But let's just see what the annual average is. Yeah, that's 14.5 million Canadian dollars a season before taxes.
Okay.
Using that exchange rate. I don't know. It's interesting. Something to take note of for sure. Let's see if any other signings have come in. Have you seen anything?
Just a bunch of smaller ones, at least for now. Yeah, I'm not seeing any bigger, like somewhat bigger ones. I mean, we do still have some, I would say, some interesting free agents still on the market. Most notably, I think Rick Nash and James Neal are still free agents. At least that's what.
Maybe one of those guys comes over to San Jose now that you guys are out of the mix for JT.
You know, I was going through some readings and I read it last night and I totally forgot about it until it popped up on my timeline again. Is that the Sharks were also in talks about a potential trade for Artemi Panarin.
What the hell? Yeah. I'm looking at the breakdown of Tavares' trade. Yeah, Panarin's on the trade market. I was talking about that a couple of days ago.
Yeah,
But I'm looking at SiriusXM's NHL Network Radio's breakdown of Tavares' contract. It's really interesting.
it's
First year, he's only making $650,000 in salary, but 15.25 million in signing bonus.
wow.
Million. And then year 2, only 910,000 in salary. Again, 15.25 signing bonus. This is really weird. What the hell? I don't even know. I've never seen a contract like that.
Yeah, I don't. Very interesting.
Very. His actual salary is never more than $1 million in any of the years.
So it's all about the signing bonus.
Yeah. That's what it looks like.
Interesting, but that cap hit still stays the same. So
Yeah, the cap hit stays the same, but it's really interesting how they're doing it. Maybe it has something to do with Canadian tax laws or codes or something. There's all kinds of factors that go into stuff like that, you know? And did you know, I don't know if we talked about this before, that you get taxed individually wherever you play?
yeah, the
Like,
the jock tax or what they call it.
yeah. I didn't know that till recently. I thought that was really interesting. Um, that you get taxed wherever you play. So if you play one game in Arizona, you pay the equivalent of one game's salary in income taxes to the state of Arizona, which is really interesting. Because you're making that income in that state, I guess. It kind of makes sense if you think about it, but it seems very complex.
I mean, do you think that that was a potential factor in the in Tavares for San Jose because they were going to be playing L.A. and Anaheim a lot, and California taxes are one of the highest or the highest in the states.
Unreal. And they could
Um,
go up still. Because California, being a blue state, the tax increases, you know what I mean?
yeah, absolutely.
Um, and
Like
like Texas,
has none.
Dallas actually had a really good offer on the table. They were saying because of how low the state income tax is in Texas.
I
Um,
mean, that could have been a factor, but
Arizona is pretty middle of the road from what I understand, state income tax wise.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I think that's really the big stuff that we're seeing for July 1st today.
yeah. We'll
I don't know.
definitely keep our eyes on Rick Nash and James Neal still. I'm interested to see where they end up.
Yeah, they still haven't signed on day one though, which is interesting. You would think that they would.
I mean, maybe James Neal was one of the guys that was being like, in terms of like his market value was kind of being held hostage based off the whole Tavares thing, and now that that's taken care of, he's getting contacts um, on his worth. I mean, do the Sharks go after him? I don't know.
Maybe the Eric Carlson trade market.
I mean,
Pierre Dorian's phones are just lighting up right now for Eric Carlson, and whoever loses out on Eric Carlson might go after those guys. You never know.
I mean,
Like I don't see Neil not getting a contract next year or Nash. Like both of those guys are going to be playing in the NHL.
oh, absolutely.
Just teams might want to see what's going to happen elsewhere before they sign either of those guys. Um,
Yeah, like, of course, since like my Twitter timeline is of course going to be very pro Sharks. A lot of them are just like, hey, reminder, this is not a nightmare scenario. We're still
no, it's
like
not.
the
You guys
Sharks,
still have a ton of cap space, and you can still make some pretty big moves
and there is still a solid team without. Um,
without any improvement.
yeah.
Um, I
And
still think that Tavares might have made the wrong decision. He
yeah,
definitely pulled the hometown. Yeah, it was hometown sentiment that sent him to Toronto. His wife also, I was seeing online that they were saying
his
that
fiance now,
um,
but
his wife bought a house in Toronto, so a lot of
and
people were citing that as
got a job there and
yeah.
everything like that. I mean, it was kind of known that she probably wanted to stay there.
Yeah, and that's what sent both Parise and Ryan Suter to Minnesota back in the days, that the wives wanted them to play at home. So JT's wife might have influenced that too. I think a lot of people almost discount the role of like the wives in some of these big contract decisions.
I mean,
Uh,
I don't know
it's a
how.
factor.
I mean, I don't know how that turned out for Marlowe's wife, but
Where's she from? Where are they from? They're from.
so Marlowe was born and raised in Anaroyd, Saskatchewan, but
Okay.
Marlowe's wife is a San Jose girl.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So he met her out there and married her out there. Um, that's interesting. All right. Well, yeah. Let's see what else is on.
People were saying, like, let's see, Kevin Kurz was saying the potential plan B for the Sharks is to go after Ryan O'Reilly.
That's not bad. Go
That,
after Sabres again, though.
I mean, question.
What pieces do you guys have to move though over there?
I mean, I have to look at the. You got to think that I know it on the top of my head, but it's good to look at the depth chart to kind of give you an idea. But
A cap friendly of who they could move over there for that.
I mean, so they're technically asking for a first round, a second round, and a top prospect. So let's see, a second round we can give, a first round we don't have. A top prospect, who would that be? That's the question. Like, what top prospect would we be willing to give up?
Here, I'm going to go on cap friendly right now. I need to look at this too.
Is it even up yet?
Let me see.
I've been reloading it at every like 10 minutes.
Oh, I didn't know that. I haven't even tried. Yeah, it still looks like it's down.
So let's see. Potential Sharks Plan Bs. Now that Tavares is off the market, Ryan O'Reilly or Temi Panarin, Eric Carlson.
I like Panarin actually.
Panarin would be a pretty good pickup, but I don't know what the asking price is for
But the
Panarin.
Sharks, Columbus is a team that wants to be good right now. So it's not like Columbus would be asking for prospects and draft picks for Panarin, Like they'd be asking for a roster player. At least.
Now who would that be?
Exactly. A Logan Couture, someone like that.
I don't know about a Logan Couture.
I think Panarin's better than Couture.
I mean, given though the contract extension they just signed with Couture, like,
I know.
like that's a Joe.
You're right.
Like,
You're right.
Would they give
I
Joe
shouldn't say that.
Pavelski?
I don't know what I'm saying.
I mean, Pavelski is a roster player.
Okay,
He's
so
a
why
top
don't we
roster
just,
player.
to wrap everything up, now that the big names are off the board, let's go from west to east of the big teams that we think have improved. So let's talk about San Jose now. Let's just move down the coast. We already covered Vancouver probably 20 minutes ago and then got sidetracked.
Yeah.
So Vancouver's going to be bad, if you don't remember. All right, San Jose, take it away, Rob.
I mean, as I said it before, they're a good team regardless of not sign even without signing John Tavares. They've been that way. I mean, the way they look, they may have not made any free agents picks yet, but they've made themselves a top contending team for the next couple of years. There's no doubt about that. They're gonna be just fine.
And I think that the Pacific is a weak division relative to the Central. So that helps the Sharks too. They're not fighting Winnipeg and Nashville to get into the postseason.
Right.
Which is good for them. Then LA, I like the Kovalchuk signing. I like that they got I like that they got Doughty in.
Here's
extended.
my beef with LA. This year they're probably going to be good, but
Yeah.
look at the ages of everybody on the roster.
But the same thing can easily be said about the Sharks, though.
But here's the thing: the Sharks have like what 4 or 5 guys who are over 30. The Kings have like 8 guys who are over 30.
Yeah, but you still got your Tyler Toffoli's. Adrian Kempe is a pretty decent hockey player. Jack Campbell isn't bad in their mind, but he's pretty old for a minor league goalie. I'm trying to think about who else is on. Paul Ledoux.
Okay, let's see.
I'm just trying to think of guys on Ontario's roster off the top of my head.
Okay,
Because these are the teams that we know really well for you guys watching. Because as we said earlier, Rob and I both cover the American Hockey League as Tucson Roadrunners beat writers. So teams like Ontario, San Jose, San Diego, those are the minor league clubs that we know. And the squads that we know because we see them a lot.
Okay, here's their last season's roster, and I'll probably also include some of the other ones that we know too. So you got Dustin Brown, 33, Jeff Carter, 33, Torrey Mitchell, 33, Nate Thompson is 33, Dion Phaneuf is 32, Jonathan Quick is 32, Trevor Lewis is 30, Anze Kopitar is 30, Alec Martinez is 30, and of course they also got Kovalchuk, who I think is 35.
He's up there.
So that's a lot of guys over 30.
Well, that's your entire core, but again, the same thing can be said about San Jose. So who knows who comes in and who goes?
But
San Jose does have more guys in the pipeline. I do concede that point. But I mean, I think all the Pacific teams might be on the downswing. Even look at Anaheim. Anaheim has an old core too.
True.
Look at Kessler and Getzlaf. Perry. I know Perry wasn't that good for them last season, but still. At least they have guys like Johnny Gibson and Brendan Montour, Hampus Lindholm, people like that, at least. But yeah, LA might be in a world of hurt. Same goes for Vegas, though. A lot of Vegas's guys are on the wrong side of 32. How many years does Marc-Andre Fleury have left? Let's be real.
What is he? 30?
He's like 33. He's like 33. So he's getting a bit long in the tooth at this point. I mean, he's not playing for another decade. I'll put it that way. Yeah. So he had a career year for Vegas last year. So we both think though, just before we move on from the California teams and head over to the desert, because that's the direction we're going in. I think LA is a playoff team next year. But how long do they stay good? That's a question.
We'll address that probably when we see a little bit more of how they're playing this season. But I don't know.
You remember at the beginning of this season, they were the hottest team in the league. Didn't they win 10 of their first 11 or something like that?
Yeah, they were ridiculous.
They were unreal for the first 2.5 weeks of the season.
I mean, they were good for the first up until mid November, and then
because they were up on top of the Pacific Division for the longest time, and then Vegas took the lead and never let it go.
I know.
In January or something like that.
Yeah, Vegas took control in January because I know the Kings were still on top when the Sharks were up against them in their Christmas game or close to Christmas game. The one I apparently have a tradition of going to, but that's a whole nother story. But yeah.
Yeah. Seeing if we got any more questions going. So you have NHL Network going in the top corner there. I can't see it on my screen, but I can see it on the YouTube feed when I'm looking at it.
Yeah. I appreciate. I love OBS now. I haven't used it in years, and now I picked it back up again. I'm like, yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah. No, it looks good. We're looking good right here. Okay, so now and then Anaheim, I don't know what happens with them. I mean, they just got absolutely destroyed by your San Jose Sharks in the playoffs. So I think that there's a lot of questions that squad's going to have to answer after that postseason performance. I mean, a lot of people were picking the Sharks to exit in the first round, including myself, and it's not, it wasn't an out there pick, and then the Ducks just completely got embarrassed.
Yeah, it's it's an interesting narrative for the Ducks. Is
What happens next? What's next?
yeah, I mean they've had a promising team and they've had a team that looks good on paper and everything, but it's it's catching up to them that they can't go to distance, at least for now. And
Yep, at least for now.
I mean, who knows?
Um,
Things can change in 2 and 3 years. In hockey, with the much lower salary cap as compared to basketball and football and all the other sports, it makes building a super team so much more difficult.
well, you can't. You also need 4 lines and 3 defensive pairs to have a good hockey team. Even if you sign a guy like Tavares and Matthews and Marner, like in basketball, having just those guys would be enough to have a super team, but you need guys behind them to be good also. And that's why having teams like that in the NHL is just, it's hard. The last super team to exist, I think, in my opinion, in the NHL before the salary cap went in place was the 02 Red Wings. If you just look at their roster, I mean,
Right.
they had Yzerman, Fedorov, Datsuk down the middle. They had Hull, Luke Robitaille, Dominic Hasek. Who else did they have on? Did I already say Fedorov? Shanahan. They had Shanahan on there. Nick Lidstrom was on the blue line. So was Chris Chelios.
I remember the question was asked regarding Tavares when it was still unknown, and it was like, if he were to sign with Tampa Bay or San Jose, that'd probably be as close to a super team you can get in the salary cap era.
I think especially Tampa Bay.
Especially Tampa Bay with how
Especially Tampa Bay.
ridiculous they are now still.
Everywhere. Tampa Bay is good everywhere. They have a pretty good decor. They have an excellent forward group without Tavares. The fact that they could have accommodated him blows my mind, that they actually had space where people were reasonably saying, okay.
I mean, Steve Yzerman said he would have had to make some moves. I mean, like
Right, but still. He was still in reach. The fact that he was still in reach while they had the roster that they did says something for sure.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so over to Vegas. You know that I'm not too high on Vegas this year. Seems that you're more optimistic on them than I am.
I wouldn't say optimistic. I think that they still have things going for them. I'm not going to say that they're going to be a good team next year, but I mean, with how interesting the Pacific Division back and forth output it's been, I still say I can't count them out yet.
Fair enough. I think that the Coyotes are a playoff team next year. I think that they've got the security in signing their best player, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, to a long-term contract extension. Grabner is in. The huge Galchenyuk Domi deal also went down. That made the Coyotes a much better team. I think that the Coyotes won that trade by far. I think Alex Galchenyuk's a much better player than Max Domi. And then they still are getting better and younger within the system. You have to develop from within in today's league. And the Coyotes have one of the best prospect pools in the league, arguably the best. And some of those guys, including, your Dylan Stromes, are going to be graduating, and even more sooner from Tucson. So I think that the Coyotes are going to be a good team.
Question is, where are we going to see Pierre-Olivier Joseph next year? Is he?
I say back in the queue.
Back in the queue.
Back in the queue, because the CHL transfer agreement still applies to him, and I don't think that they're going to throw him into the mix in the NHL that quickly. If he has a good training camp, I could. What I see them doing. Like the 9-game period where you can put him in the NHL, but you can still send him back to the CHL.
Yeah,
I see them giving him a shot in that 9-game window, and making their decision after that. That's my prediction.
I can see it.
Um, and what about Barrett? Barrett Hayton, I think, is back in the OHL for sure. Um, the guy that they selected
Right.
fifth overall. What do you think? What was the decision process in not selecting Philip Zadina? I know I'm happy as a Red Wings fan that he went to the Red Wings, but looking at the Coyotes and how they really need wingers, they didn't really have much of a positional need at center. I'd be really curious to see what the decision process was in the Coyotes war room. I'm not saying it was a bad pick. I still think Hayton's a good player and that people should give him a shot. But I wonder what that decision making process was. You know,
Yeah,
given all the depth that they have at center.
we would definitely have to take a good look into that. Of
Like I
course,
wish I could be a fly on the wall, for what the conversations that led to that pick.
I mean, obviously, John Chaika has something going on in his head that, and it,
Absolutely, and there's a reason
and,
why he's a GM in the league.
yeah,
Um, okay, yeah, but I think the Coyotes are a playoff team next year. This is the most optimistic I've felt about the Coyotes in quite some time. And I've been out in Arizona my whole life, so obviously I don't think they're a contender, but I do think they're a playoff team.
by the way,
Um,
real quick, the Couture deal is made official.
okay, that's good for you guys.
8 years, 64
All right,
million.
Alberta, Oilers, Flames. What do you think? They've
Um,
been quiet today. They have both the actually no, the big Lindholm and Hannafin deal. That was Calgary's big move this offseason so far.
yeah, and Calgary's gonna be on their way. I think they're gonna be pretty good. And I say,
I think they'll be in the mix for
yeah,
sure.
Edmonton will be a fringe team. It's kind of hard to tell.
I feel like Connor McDavid is the Jonathan Tavares of the future. Great number one overall draft pick, but they might just not ever be able to put a good team around him.
Yeah,
I could see it happening. But I think that Calgary is going to be in the mix along with Arizona. The Pacific, I feel like, is pretty open this year.
it's
I would say the only teams that I'm not too confident in making the playoffs, and the only single team in the Pacific that I'd say no way they make the postseason this year is Vancouver. All 7 of the other teams, I feel like,
and you
could
have
fight for a spot.
and you have like almost like you like very confident, like at least based off what I heard from you in the last couple of days, you pretty much very still confident in Arizona and San Jose.
I'm very
Um,
confident in Arizona and San Jose.
like
I'm extremely confident in Arizona. People should not be sleeping on them because
so
of how good they were in the last month and a half of last season, and the talent that they have coming through their system, and like the Galchenyuk trade, finally locking up Ekman Larson. They're probably going to name him captain pretty soon because that was pretty much the only reason why he wasn't captain before, was that he wasn't locked up long term. And obviously, a player like OEL sees something good from the Coyotes that he is staying here. He easily could have left, and there was a lot of people were saying that he's gone for sure. Like you and I would talk around the press box with very smart hockey people down in Tucson, and they were saying that there's no way OEL stays. I don't know if you remember that, but I do.
I don't think I don't think I've been a part of that conversation, or at least
I
can't
was. I had
remember it.
several
But
conversations with people that I respect. Like I respect their opinions. They know what they're talking about, and they were saying, that OEL probably will leave. These aren't these may or may not be people affiliated with the Coyotes. Just people I was talking around with. So yeah, I mean, it's good. He obviously saw something. That's all I'm trying to say. And then Kevin Ekman Larson's actually staying with the Roadrunners too. I don't know if you saw that. Some
yeah,
minor action on the minor league front.
yeah, I got a 1 year deal.
Yep. Let's see if they actually play him next year. They didn't play him too much last
Yeah,
season.
he was kind of off and on. I mean, like they might play
He
him.
was a seventh D man
I
for
mean,
the Roadrunners.
yeah, they might, work a little bit more with him since they shipped Kyle Wood over to the Barracuda. Um,
That they did. And who did we get back in return for that again?
um, I don't
So now we're
remember.
switching over to the AHL. I love talking. I love the
Oh,
AHL.
the AHL is fantastic. Um,
It's a fun little league to follow for sure.
wonderful tune you got over there.
I know it's this little thing that I'm playing with. Sorry,
It's
getting fidgety over here. Um,
Adam Haluk.
I didn't. Who?
They flipped a forward over.
Okay. Um, I think. Do you think Capobianco has a reasonable shot in making the Yotes next year? I feel like he'll put up a fight in training camp. He's a good skating D man. He's very smart. He's responsible in his own end, and he knows how to do stuff in the offensive zone. He knows how to make plays in the offensive zone. So I think Capo Bianco could go up to the Yotes too.
Oh, I mean,
Hill
yeah.
is in with the Coyotes. I mean the Roadrunners for a while.
Oh yeah. Hill has kind of solidified himself as a
I've heard people talk about him getting traded. There's no rumors I've seen on Twitter about that, but I've heard little things here and there for whatever that's worth. Because the Coyotes do have guys like Ronta up in the NHL club. But I'm not trying to start any trade rumors here. Just saying I've heard minor rumblings.
Yeah, we're gonna have our viewers just go ahead and clip that and post it on Twitter everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. All two of them, right? How many people are watching?
To the 4 guys currently watching, how you guys doing?
4 guys currently watching. Yeah, be sure to post that trade rumor online. No, not really. Trust me, I'm not that deep of an insider by any means. So don't take that seriously.
I'd like to eventually be an insider. Of course, I'm a journalism major. I love to cover teams and these getting these information about certain things. It's interesting. I like that. I like to grasp on.
Oh, it's cool to know about a trade before it happens, for sure.
Yeah.
Before the general public does, that is. I know it's only like an hour difference, but still. Hey, maybe I'll be leaking that inside information to you someday as our careers progress.
Yeah, that would be that. Hey, it's
That'd
good to have.
Be interesting. Sports is small,
That's why I'm a sports management minor, getting to know people who kind of want to get into that business and get some info, try to see if I can make some acquaintances slash other colleagues.
That's why it's great to be in Tucson, sitting in the press box, because you do get some very high caliber NHL officials coming through there. You really do.
I was able to get the contact information of the assistant GM of the LA Kings. So.
Yeah. Wait, when did you do that?
I don't know, sometime in like November, December. One of the time when the Rain were in town.
Yeah, I talked to Dean Lombardi not last season, but the year before when he was still GM of the Kings. He was sitting right next to me.
If I was able to talk to Rob Blake, that'd be cool, because I know he was he's had his fair share around, and everyone knows Rob Blake.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyways, that's
a good player in the league too.
Yeah, let's go ahead and try to wrap things up, because I know we've been.
Yeah, I'm very hungry. I've not eaten breakfast yet.
I had a breakfast, but I'm starting to get a little hungry too. But
Yeah. Okay, and then we'll move over to the Central really quick. I don't think that much changes in the Central. I think that Nashville and Winnipeg are still the 2 best teams in that division.
Yeah. It's the rest, which still might be up in the air, just because of.
Who knows about Chicago? I feel like Chicago is now a bubble playoff team at this point. Like, they could be in, could be out.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to tell on that point, just because of they've made a couple of moves. Not really, and not anything really too notable. For them to have missed the playoffs though, for what was it, the first time in how long? Is it 8?
Oh yeah,
nine,
it was.
nine
It was.
years?
I think a decade at least.
Yeah. So
I don't think you're ever going to see that type of thing again. You know, like you remember how the Red Wings made it 25 years in a row?
yeah, you're
I
not
think in the salary cap era, because those 25 playoff appearances dated back to the pre-cap era too.
it
You know,
a good 10 years of that was pre-cap era.
yeah, because it was 91 to 2016, including the lockout year. So it was 25 seasons, 26 years,
Oh yeah, so
right?
even more um pre-cap era. So you got, what is that? 14 seasons pre-cap?
Yeah, yeah. So I don't think you're ever going to see those types of big postseason streaks anymore. And
I
I think
mean
it's hard to too,
I mean
because so much of the league that today is about developing and drafting from within. And when you're making the playoffs season in and season out, you're just not going to get those good prospects and draft picks.
I mean you do have teams like the Sharks who have made 13 of the last 14. And you're going to see that. But
Yeah,
not
you
much.
will, but you're not going to see those like 2 decade long playoff appearances
Yeah.
streaks like the Red Wings had.
Yeah, you're going to have brief stints where they don't make it, and it's going to happen for every team, and like so it's just
I think
those.
that's good. It makes the NHL more entertaining.
Yeah, it's you're not gonna see the same teams in the finals every single year, and
Like cough NBA.
yeah, I mean we're not gonna see that anymore probably because I mean LeBron James is on the move, but we're not here to talk about
LeBron
that.
James is going to the Lakers supposedly. I don't like the NBA, so
Yeah,
that's like as
yeah,
much as we'll say about the
yeah.
NBA
We're
right
not here to
now.
talk about that. We
Um,
are NHL guys, so
yeah, big hockey guys usually aren't big basketball guys.
yeah. There's a decent beef between the fans,
In
but
the NHL and NBA fans love talking shit to each other.
I mean their seasons run concurrently with each other, so it makes sense.
That they do, and it's different types of people that like both sports generally. Like, and I've taught like NBA fans have talked a lot of shit to me, and I've talked a lot of shit to NBA fans. I'm sure you're the same too.
Oh, absolutely.
They
Especially,
always like to kind of talk down to us, though. That's the interesting part. Um, but I feel like they can't because their league is boring, unentertaining, and I think it's too politicized too. I think that sports and politics don't mix. I'm just not about it.
yeah,
Like when Tim Thomas, remember, didn't go to the White House to visit Obama. Let's
yeah,
not get political here. Let's
yeah.
move past that. Yeah,
Let's go
sorry,
ahead
not going to
and
go down that path.
again continue to try to wrap things up.
All right, Atlantic. We already talked about the Atlantic. Three best teams are clearly um, Toronto,
Boston,
Tampa
and
Bay, and Boston.
yeah, no doubt
Um,
about that.
I think Toronto and Tampa Bay tentatively, I'll say, are 1 and 2.
In no particular order.
Yeah, I still think Tampa Bay is the best team in that division.
Yeah,
So do you.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and then the Metro. Oh boy, what happens in the Metro?
So
I think that I don't know. I think the Capitals are a playoff team again. Obviously, same goes
Yeah,
for the Penguins. Islanders.
they're
They might be last. They'll be either last or close to last. Now that Tavares is gone,
let me take a look at the rest of the Metro.
the Canes are going to be pretty bad too. The Hurricanes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Hurricanes are going to be pretty bad too.
Um,
Um,
where do the Rangers sit?
I think that they're on the outside looking in. Honestly, I think that they're heading into a rebuild, a much needed rebuild. I think that New Jersey's a playoff team again. Um,
How does Columbus look to you?
Depends what happens with Panarin.
If he's on the move, then they're out most likely, and then if he stays,
If he stays, they're a playoff team. But I feel like Washington and Pittsburgh are for sure in.
yeah,
I don't think the Capitals are repeating as Cup champions, but I think they at least make the playoffs again. The Penguins, anyone but the Penguins winning the Cup next year,
please.
please. I'm still like, I'd be very upset. I'd be very upset.
I st-
But Kessel and Letang might be on the move. Got to watch that in the trade market also. That's what the rumors have been.
The trade market is going to be interesting because there's a lot of people on the move.
Yeah,
think,
we'll have to do a podcast when I get back from vacation because I think that's coordinating. That's going to be a little bit hard.
Yeah, I'm always here.
But I'm sure there's going to be some big news coming in over the next 10 days.
Yeah, I don't doubt it at all. I mean, again, if we're like to review some of the people on the move, Eric Carlson, Ryan O'Reilly, Artemi Panarin, those are like probably just what the top. You'd say the top three on the move.
Yeah, I think that Kessel's on the move too. That's what
Yeah,
all reports seem to indicate.
Phil Kessel.
And the same goes for Letang. And there still could be some more signings that come in that trickle in here and there. Maybe guys coming over from the KHL. Who knows? We might cover the minor league side of things a little bit more too, because there's always interesting stuff going on in the AHL.
I think as we get closer to like August, September,
training camp, we'll do that.
Training camp time, we'll be like, okay, we'll focus more, because then we'll kind of get a little bit more of an idea of where certain we're probably going to focus mostly again on the Roadrunners, since that is the
Pacific Division.
And the Pacific Division. So we're probably going to get a lot. You're probably going to hear a lot about the Gulls and the Reign and the Barracuda. And is the new Colorado team?
They are in the Pacific, and they're actually the Roadrunners' most numerous opponent next year.
Yes, that is.
Which is kind of weird, because Loveland, Colorado is pretty far from Tucson. That's like flying. You're not on the bus. Going from northern Colorado to southern Arizona.
Right.
Yeah, but they are in the Pacific. The Colorado Eagles are. And then, so the Metro, yeah. What do you think of the Rangers? Are the Rangers out or in? I say out again.
I mean, I haven't seen them do anything, so they're out.
They're out. And then Islanders are out. Yeah. I think the Devils are probably in. I feel like Philly's on the bubble, and
Blue Jackets is a hit or miss.
Blue Jackets will be hit or miss. The Metro is actually going to be interesting, but I think that the Atlantic is going to be what everyone pays attention to next year in the East. Like, I feel like the Metro is going to be irrelevant in comparison.
Yeah, just because of the situation you have now with Tavares.
With Tavares over there. Like, the battle between Toronto and Tampa Bay is going to be really interesting. Their unis look almost the same, too, which I was never a fan of either. Tampa Bay copying Toronto.
Very
very similar.
Very similar color scheme.
Jersey layout.
Yeah. I'm always on the boat for uniqueness, and of course you can tell how that ended up turning up for my team.
The Sharks have one of the best jerseys in the league. I still think best logos, at least. The best logo in the league is still the Red Wings, though. It's just a classic. It's beautiful. It represents the city. The car industry.
Yeah, it's been around for a long time.
For a long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that'll be all. Thanks everyone for watching. Once again, I'm Eric Kloc, and always a pleasure to be joined by Rob Leano.
Yeah. So it was awesome having this pretty long live stream. If you guys want to continue to follow the coverage that we have, whether it be AHL coverage or other NHL coverage, go ahead and go over to Twitter for us. We are on so it's at ITG on KAMP. We could find us there and follow us there, and we'll post every now and then on if there's another signing this week, we'll probably make a post about it. And you will see on our Twitter that we are on 9 different podcasting platforms. So take your pick on where you want to subscribe to. This episode, I might try to do an editing and do a shortened version of this episode on and post it up. But you'll find out.
Maybe get the highlights.
Yeah. Because it was quite a long episode, and I don't think people want to go listen through 2.5 hours again. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I, I know this from experience.
Cut it down to like an hour and 15,
Yeah,
and we'll see. Obviously, this part won't go in. This is pretty expendable right here. This little us talking about cutting it down.
yeah. But again, so just go ahead and follow that Twitter page, and you'll see uh, Eric and my Twitter handles as well. His, of course, being at EJ Kloc, and mine being at RobLeano1. Of course, you'll see it there on our Twitter page. So I guess once again, thanks everybody for sticking through this whole 2.5 hour live stream for special edition NHL Free Agency. It's been uh, quite the day. Lots of things moving around. A lot of more minor ones that we didn't touch on. We could have talked about them, but it would have made things a lot more complicated, probably longer. Who knows? But I'm dragging on too long, so thanks everybody for tuning in. Have a good day.
Yep.